Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Glad to be with you. Glad to be back after some time in Dallas, in Frisco, for the Big 12 Media Days at the Star, Dallas Cowboys practice facility, collected teams in the Big 12 Conference, BYU, Texas Tech, Houston on day one, Utah, really the headliner for day two. It felt like the event was very much geared toward day one, and that day two was a little bit of a, hey, Utah, you got to carry this thing, which not my favorite media day that I've ever experienced or been to, but some things to talk about, some things to take away. We'll have sound for you, I'm sure, today and tomorrow on our show, on the Drive with Spence Checketts, based on some of those things. While we were doing Big 12 Media Days, you got Wimbledon going on. You've got World Cup soccer going on. Although yesterday, no World Cup game, and it was hilarious to see the American sports audience be like, wait a second, no World Cup game today? We've had this, continuous fire hose of soccer, and we've grown accustomed to it. We've fallen in love with it, and now you get another game today. France versus Morocco, first kick at 2 o'clock, right when our show goes final. I think France is the eventual winner of this tournament, but Morocco has surprised a lot of people to this point. Maybe they can do it again today.
It's too bad, OC, that the American audience isn't going to be watching because you lost us with no game, and U.S. men's national team bowed out in kind of embarrassing fashion on Monday. So it's too bad no one here is going to watch, right?
That was another thing. It was wild, the violent reaction to the U.S. men's national team exit in the round of 16, which is kind of where most of us thought they were going to fall out. I went a little bolder. I'm like, they're going to the quarters, and I was feeling really good about that. They landed right where you predicted them to be, and a lot of other people predicted them to be. And I'm not going to pretend I'm a soccer genius, and that's why I got that right. It's because, you look around and you just kind of handicap the field, and you say, this is before we knew what the bracket was going to look like. Admittedly, this is before we really allowed for the fact that the U.S. men's national team was going to look so good and dominant in group play and win the group and have a slightly easier path because of winning the group. But, man, it was it's good to see, honestly. And I count myself among those who jumped on the soccer bandwagon during this World Cup, and I will never, ever dispute the value of proximity bias, recency bias, of that prisoner of the moment, like all you got to do is win and America's going to love you, because we got on board with this U.S. men's national team. And then watching the way that everyone now is just hating on Christian Pulisic, watching the way that everyone is heartbroken and devastated over the fact that the United States is actually not an elite soccer nation, which, by the way, is something we have known for a century.
And yet, this team fooled us a little bit, though. Flo Balogun, in particular, got us feeling like could be more than what could rise above our station in that way.
You're right. That's what happened. Is people were just like, oh, wait a second. Maybe we have more pace, more talent, more depth than we originally gave this team credit for. Maybe Mauricio Pochettino is really the savior in that coaching position that we've been looking for. And the answer is, well, not yet. Right? We are where we thought we were, or where I thought we were, or where most experts thought we were, right? And one of the fascinating things that has come out of it, and I think maybe the most positive thing that has come out of Team USA's early exit, or predictable exit, from the World Cup, is it is shedding a harsh light on the youth soccer system in the United States of America and the youth sports system in the United States of America in general. We are long past due for a bit of a reckoning on that front.
and you saw Alexi Lalas taking the capitalist side of the argument with Thierry Henry and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and those two, I mean, generationally great, Hall of Fame, all-world soccer players, were saying, like, yeah, as we have learned more about the way the system works in the United States, Thierry Henry said, I would not have been an elite footballer in the United States because my family could not have afforded it. Zlatan said the same thing, and Alexi Lalas, because he likes to be a contrarian, and his whole shtick is he's going to be the guy that says the thing nobody likes, is he was like, well, you know, but it's okay. That system is okay because there are people who are highly successful based on this model. And he's not talking about the soccer nation, and he's not talking about the players, and he's not talking about the American born and bred coaches. He's talking about the owners of the academy systems and the owners of the Little League tournaments and the owners of the travel squads and all that kind of stuff.
And by the way, himself, as he's parlayed a mediocre by international standards soccer career, but really good pioneer U.S. soccer player, parlayed that into a incredible media career. So he's propping up himself a little bit when he talks about that.
That is one thing that is difficult for anybody in any role in any place in the world to do, is to look at a system that isn't this, that served you well, and to say that it was bad.
Of course.
It's one of the hardest things for anyone to do, to just be like, well, that's not how it should be. Because if you're like, well, that's how I did it, right? Everybody who grew up with their parents being like kind of strict, right? A spanking now and again, that's probably how you're going to parent. Because you're like, I turned out fine. You think you turned out fine, right? No, I'm gonna you tell yourself this, and then we're the softer generation. I've had this conversation with myself. My parents were very strict when I was a kid, right? I'm like, I'm going to be strict with my kids because it builds character. I'm not with my own kids. But in my head, I want to be, right? For Alexi Lalas, he's going to defend a system that put him in the place that he's in right now. For Thierry Henry and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, they might be looking outside looking in at that system and going, that's a terrible thing.
Well, here's where I feel like they have more merit. Obviously, they have a lot more soccer credibility because, as you said, they were all-world players, right? Compared to Alexi Lalas, who was only an all-world player because he happened to play in the mediocre soccer country in the United States at the time, right? But that aside, they have more merit in this because they come from places, particularly Thierry Henry in France, who expect to win World Cups. And I mean, not necessarily Zlatan from Sweden, but they have a lot higher expectation than the United States always ever has in World Cups, right? And so their perspective is a lot better than Alexi Lalas's, because all we've had until these last two World Cups, when we've called this the golden generation, and all of a sudden there's been expectations behind this team, is let's just go out there and not embarrass ourselves in front of the world. Let's win our group. Let's get to the knockout stage, and then whatever happens after that is gravy. That's not the standard for Thierry Henry in France when he was playing, and so their perspective has a lot more merit.
And guess what? That actually is not the standard for U.S. soccer. That's the thing that's the difficult thing about this conversation. We decided to move the goalpost in this World Cup.
Soccer guy. Soccer cliches.
We decided to we moved it because we were just like, oh, wait, maybe they're better than we thought they were. Maybe Pochettino is a better fit than we thought he was. Maybe being the host nation and the attention that it's getting right now means enough that we are going to advance further. Nobody in their right mind thought that this U.S. men's national team was going to win the World Cup. Most people didn't think they were going to make it to the quarterfinals. Go find, like, revisionist history. Go find the credible predictor who said they would be a semifinal team. Nobody was saying these things, right? And now we are dissatisfied with the result. And the reason we're dissatisfied with the result is not because Team USA lost to Belgium. It's because of how embarrassing that loss was. You got humiliated on home soil. A packed stadium one of the loudest stadiums in our professional sports world, one of the more dedicated soccer fan bases is up there in Seattle, and you got embarrassed. And your Captain America, Christian Pulisic, looked like kind of a baby back you-know-what, because he wasn't playing well, and then he got a hard tackle, and then again it's the injuries, and it was weird that moment felt like it gave the older generation of player, the more successful generation of player on the women's side, gave them almost permission to finally say what they wanted to say about Pulisic. Did you get that sense? Am I wrong in that? It felt like a lot of those people had been biting their tongue and taking the company line and realizing, like, hey, this is our guy right now. This is the face of U.S. soccer. I cannot.
Captain America is his literal nickname,
which I take grave offense to. But
he hasn't even been the captain, by the way. I think this year he was the captain, but when he got that nickname, he wasn't even the captain. But we digress.
But at the end of the day, it felt like Carly Lloyd and Clint Dempsey, and to some extent Alexi Lawless, but certainly Landon Donovan, they were like, okay, now I could tell people what I really think about this guy.
Yeah, you don't want to rain on the parade, right? Like, you got to wait until you see how far this team's going to go, because maybe they prove you wrong. Maybe they prove your negative thinking wrong. And then after they prove it right, after you feel like you're proven right, go ahead and rail on them. I don't hate that approach.
And by the way, the easiest thing for all of us to do is to be the armchair soccer player, the armchair center midfielder, and just be like, you know what? You'd have to amputate my leg and wheel me out of there before I pulled out of an elimination game in the World Cup on home soil. Everyone is saying that. And some people, that's true. Other people, one thing that is a little silly is expecting soccer players to tough it out. Don't walk around looking cocky and awesome. You're like the 80th best player in this tournament, maybe. Okay?
And Balogun clearly outshined you. I mean, it's worth noting, I know that's part of the criticism you're talking about here. It's worth noting that Balogun was fully healthy the whole tournament. Pulisic clearly was not, but still.
So the larger part of me is doing what Carly Lloyd is doing and just being like, yeah, man, that's unacceptable. I know you might be limping around. Maybe you got a sprain, maybe whatever. And look, it's different in soccer than it is in other sports.
They did
you got to run so much. The report today is that he has
a microfracture.
A microfracture. Okay. Again, I don't know.
A little more serious than we probably thought it was in the moment, just to be fair.
But at the end of the day, even if he stays in that game, he was a non-factor. And this team embarrassed themselves, and nobody is happy with the result. Is it going to change anything? Well, maybe. And the reason I say maybe is because instead of asking the question about, well, who should we have be our coach, right? Every time the USA exits early or underperforms or misses a World Cup, we do the thing where it's just like, well, clearly this coach is wrong. We got to figure something out in development. You have to go to the source, to the root of the problem, and finally people are doing that. Now, there's a bunch of folks pushing back on the argument that America's best athletes forego soccer and do other things. They don't like that narrative because it's old and it's deeply ingrained, and we've heard it 10,000 times. And people want Stephen A. Smith to have a different take. They want Nick Wright to have a different take. You might be tuning in expecting Sean O'Connell to have a different explanation for this, but there isn't one. And people are using Antonio Freeman's son as the example. Like, what are you talking about? That's football royalty. Okay, sure.
He could have played football, and now he's decided to play soccer. I mean, that is notable.
There are going to be outliers in every scenario. The thing is, right, don't look at that one outlier. Go look at all of Freeman's peers. Every other son of an NFL player. What is he doing? rich and you have the country club set kind of a situation, right? Like, it is a problem in the United States of America that is, I think, irreversible. That I think we are past the point of no return where our best athletes are selected to specifically basketball and football. Baseball ain't it anymore either. There was a time in the United States of America where America's best athletes chose between those or played all of them, and then whichever one they had the best acumen for, they were like, all right, well, you're going to be a baseball player.
Yeah, you
right? Joe Mauer.
Commit to your best sport. Yeah.
Joe Mauer is one of my favorite modern-day baseball players. He's retired now. But we're roughly the same age. Some people know this. He was the number one quarterback in his class, which I think might have been either 1 year older or 1 year younger than me. I could look it up because I have a computer right in front of me, but I'm trying to talk right now. And he was a multi-sport athlete and was just like, you know what? He could have gone to the NFL probably. But he said, baseball's my first love. The longevity in baseball is better. I can be the number one quarterback, or I can be like a Hall of Fame catcher. And he decided to do that. And it makes perfect sense. LeBron James was a multi-sport athlete. LeBron James realized after his freshman year of high school that football was not going to be the thing that made him a global phenomenon. And he, by the way, he would have been great as a football player. Instead, he was like, I'm going to go be the best basketball player of my generation, maybe ever, in the history of the world. And so he did that, right? Soccer, you can't do it. And I love the examination that's happening of that system, of the youth system, of going all the way down to the root of this problem. I can't believe I've given my guy Clay Christensen 2 shout-outs in like a 1 week span of time.
The Jordan High beat
Jordan
digger
High
great
soccer legend, Clay Christensen, Jersey retired, state champion.
Let's go. 5A
MVP. Like, Clay was probably the second best athlete of my peer group, of my East Sandy school, like Willow Canyon Elementary, Eastmont Middle School, Jordan High School. Some people went to Brighton, some people went to Alta, whatever. Some people went to Juan Diego, right?
Nobody's perfect, right?
Yeah, nobody's perfect. Clay was, of our class, he was either the best or the second best athlete in the class.
So, hold on. You're not allowing him to be higher than you? Is that what second best is?
He's a way better athlete than me.
Okay.
He's a way better, more impressive athlete than me. I'm like 15.
Was there a basketball player or something you're thinking of that might have been higher? Or?
No, we had a guy, Trevor Moss, who was a state champion wrestler.
Oh, okay.
He was an all-everything football player, and he was also, like, on a whim, decided to be part of a 4x1 relay team that was championship level.
I think that's fair. He's probably the best.
He's the best athlete, but Clay is right. Clay was right there with him, right? And Trevor.
Then Gap, then you. Is that where we're going?
then 75 other people, and then me. No, but like Trevor Moss, shout out to him, right? Trevor was the best athlete, and he was the traditional, like, All-American. I'm going to play baseball in the summer. I'm going to play football in the fall. He wrestled instead of playing basketball because that was kind of like a family thing, right? He wrestled even from youth times on in the winter time. And those were his 3 sports. And then, like I said, baseball kind of fell off. He took up track because he was incredibly fast. Well, Clay, this whole time, was in soccer. And he had to stay in soccer because soccer is a year-round sport. Soccer, the club teams, the ODP, Olympic development kind of stuff, it's all year. And it's a lifestyle. You have to dedicate yourself to it. And you actually avoid some of the, like, recruitment to other sports because of that, in my opinion, in my experience, in my anecdotal story here. I watched this happen with the second best or the best athlete of my childhood.
Guy who probably could have been awesome at multiple sports.
Would have been an unbelievable defensive back. Probably would have been a great running back if he had wanted to do that. Was stone cold killer on the basketball court, just playing like church ball, but never got to really develop it. You know what I mean? Because soccer was the thing. And it worked out great for him because he ended up playing college soccer. He ended up coaching some soccer. He was the best soccer player in the state as a high schooler. So maybe it's like enough, right? But the examination of the system in which a person like that has to exist, and how do you get those people then to the next level, then to the next step, or more importantly probably, how do you get it so that instead of having one of those guys on your team, you also have the Trevor Moss on your team? And everyone from their high school knows who these people are. Oh, if he would have played football, he would have been great. Oh, if he would have played basketball, he would have been great. Oh, if we'd had the starting quarterback also on the soccer team, he would have been amazing. There's an exclusivity that exists between some of these sports. Like, how many guys do you know? Seriously, 877-353-0700. How many guys do you know that were soccer players and some other sport when they were in high school? I think we had one guy on the soccer team who also played on the football team. I think it was one was the answer. Shout out Brandon Rogers, who was in goal. Big old ginger. Giant dude. Had to play football because he's a monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Like, I had friends through, like, freshman year still played basketball, but after that, they committed full-time to soccer. So you might be on something there. As you were talking about that, I'm like, I feel like it was a little different in St. George area when I grew up, but I'm thinking of at some point in high school they played multiple sports, but they ended up most of the time playing just soccer.
And look, you might be out there listening going like, why do you want multi-sport soccer athletes? What we need is guys, the best athletes, to be dedicated to soccer from the very beginning. That's what it is in Europe, and that's what it is in some of these other places. It's not realistic. But like, if for some families the choice comes down to, all right, I am going to have my kid play junior jazz basketball or Ute Conference football or Pony League baseball or travel soccer, and there's a couple $100 investment in some of these other things. It costs $5,000 to play travel soccer, apparently. Like, how many families are capable of doing that?
Yeah, and listen, Kevin Frazier, Entertainment Tonight, former Sports Center anchor, when he's been a regular guest on Dan Patrick. He hopped on there at the Tahoe Pro-Am, the big celebrity Pro-Am. He's there for that. He's not a scheduled guest on the show. He just walks by. He's like, I gotta talk about what Alexi Lawless said, because apparently his son is a high-level soccer player. So he's in that world. And Kevin just railed on it, saying the reason why we keep hitting a ceiling here is because we don't have as much inclusivity in soccer. And I think that his point was not about we got to get the LeBron Jameses of the world playing soccer. His point was like, how about in Southern California we get some of the Latinos who that is their sport? Why don't we have any of those guys who are Americans playing soccer?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would love to know the answer to the question. And again, I'm not really in this world. My wife grew up in this world. She was a really high-level soccer player. She played college soccer. And we've had arguments about whether or not you have to put your kids in like all-star level, travel level sports in order to have them get scholarships. That's a good question. I don't know. Some people do. But I think it's if there's any silver lining to be found with the USA exiting this World Cup, that's it. That now there's a deep dive, real examination into the system that builds these prospects, that builds us to these eventual World Cup national teams, and we're not doing it as well as any other developed nation, and even not as well as a lot of like moderately developed nations.
I honestly think, like, in general, less exclusivity seems to be a good answer for things, and that might help. It's logical to think that would help U.S. soccer, but we'll see.
I agree. All right. Gordy Chiesa is going to join us next. We obviously missed Gordy on Tuesday because we're doing Big 12 Media Days. Got a lot to talk about in the NBA world. He'll be here in studio with us. We're rolling on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Gordy Chiesa joins us here in studio on the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux Skylights dealer. Gordy, good to see you again. How are you, sir?
Sean, welcome back to from Dallas, Texas, and also from London. You're like a globetrotter.
I'm all over the place. Wimbledon last week, Big 12 Media Days this week. We took down some brisket down there in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. That was the kind of punctuation point on the whole trip. Went to Hutchins Barbecue and made sure to gorge myself on good old-fashioned Texas barbecue.
All right, so you're saying that Texas barbecue is better than Kansas City?
That's tough.
Or Memphis?
Well, I would say yes, more than Memphis.
Ooh.
Better than Memphis.
Okay.
Is it better than Kansas City barbecue? Well, I'm going to have to do a little bit more research. I'll tell you this, Gordy. I've had a lot more Texas barbecue than I've had authentic Kansas City barbecue.
Okay.
So I would lean in that direction.
All right, so shall be continued. Well, welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And look, we've missed a lot. I have missed a lot in the week-ish of being away. There's no off season. There's no slow time right now in sports, and in the NBA certainly that holds true. Let's start with the thing that is most locally relevant. Utah Jazz number 2 draft pick Darren Peterson in a Jazz uniform for the first time playing summer league basketball up at the Huntsman Center. Got big time matchups coming up, but you and I have yet to talk about his debut in a Jazz uniform. So let's dive into that. What are you seeing from not only Darren Peterson, but from the Jazz in Summer League?
Well, first Summer League, they were 3-0. Not that it matters winning, but that's how they won. They played good defense, they shared the ball, and they have a good talent level as far as in their age group. All right, Darren Peterson, dynamic. He lives in the paint. He should get a mortgage, Sean, by being in the paint all the time. All right, with a very low interest rate. Very similar to you, Sean, I might add. Okay. Yeah. Here's the quick metrics. He averaged 26.5 points per game, 7 assists, 3.5 rebounds, and 5 turnovers. But his turnovers were the first game. In the second game, he had 12 dimes and only 2 turnovers. He played 2 games, held him out the last game, which is very normal with most teams they do right now. What he does is that he has that unbelievable ability to get his shoulder by the initial defender, get in the lane, and make a play. And that play could be a rim attack. It could be kick it out to the corner for a rainbow 3. It could be pivot away into a 2-footed Jalen Brunson type move in the lane, which is really impressive. Or the last point about it, that's feathery mid-range jump shot. And so he was absolutely spectacular. Number 2 pick of the draft. He really shows what he could do. And with progression, he's going to be a tremendous player for the Jazz.
When you're watching a young guy like that, and he makes it look easy, and he makes it look like it's not as challenging for him to identify where that pass should go. It's not as challenging for him to create the physical spacing, et cetera, et cetera. How much of that stuff you look at and you say, okay, he's been coached well to do that, and how much of it do you look at and say, that's just God-given?
That's God-given. No, the answer is 3/4 God-given, 1/4 coaching / teammates / environment. He's got talent. Remember, in the NBA, this is a talent league. However, a lot of times people have knockout talent, and they guard themselves by over-dribbling, Sean, that awful thing called over-dribbling. So far, Darren Peterson dribbles very wisely, and what he does is he makes his teammates better. I'm excited for him, for Jazz basketball. So he's ultra-talented. All right, tonight, Sean, the main event, and I'm not talking about you fighting right now, Sean. I'm talking about the main event tonight with AJ DeBonsa, who we all love, the former BYU tremendous talent via Brockton, Massachusetts, is playing against Darren Peterson. So the Wizards play tonight against the Jazz. Sean, who would have thought, if someone said to me 35 years ago when I was coaching in the NBA back in 1989, is that ESPN would do the game live, a summer league game, I would say, what are you, crazy? And that's the power of what? Of one, NBA basketball and live programming, and then these 2 elite young talents, meaning AJ and Darren Peterson, Wizards versus Jazz tonight at 9 o'clock back east, 7 o'clock here local on ESPN national television. Sean, for a summer league game.
That's right. That's right.
Crazy.
I mean, it tells you, it's a testament to the status of the NBA now on the American sports landscape. Obviously, the NFL is the king and dominates, but the NBA being, I mean, there's the alternative programming that used to find a niche gets pushed out by summer league basketball, right?
Correct.
10 years ago, that's when you're watching the lumberjack games. That's when there's a dog show on ESPN. That's when poker is on ESPN. Now they're like, you know what? Let's go to a university campus and let's put this on our big channel because these are the future stars of the league.
Very much. So there's great vibes around the Summer League. Now, the Summer League in Vegas, I call it a quasi-NBA convention. Everybody there is in the NBA in Las Vegas for the next 12 days. Whether you are a player that's on a present team, you're a guy that played in Europe last year, and you're trying to get re-entered again to the NBA of trying to outplay the guys that were high in the draft this year. All the executives, all the coaches are there, and most of all, Sean, are the agents. The agents are front and center. Besides sitting at courtside, they are absolutely, Sean, I call it the all-lobby team, where you're in the lobby all the time, and the agents are talking and they're doing business, Sean, in the lobby. Sean, I know you've been a lot of times been at the Marriott lobby doing business. This is to the extreme, and at Thomas and Mack Center. So if you want to see some of the executives and also the agents, just hang out in the lobby.
Keontae George has been disallowed from his little coaching attempt. It feels like the NBA is being a bit heavy-handed here, but I don't know all the fine print rules and stuff. Are you surprised that they reversed their decision to let him be a volunteer coach for one game?
Yeah, I'm surprised, yeah. It was really it's a good story. I'm surprised they acted as the judge, the jury, and the trial. And so it's surprising. What the Jazz are trying to do was their young fourth-year player, I'll call him again, quasi-point guard, is that he's going to get be in the staff meetings and just get an understanding about how the coaches think. It's a different world. When you're a point guard in the NBA, your world turns every 24 seconds as far as the shot clock. And so when you're involved with the coaches in a very learning environment, it helps you understand the position better. Most players play the game physically. Every coach thinks the game mentally. When you're an elite player, you do both. You play the game physically and you think mentally of what's going on, especially if you're a QB in the NFL or if you're a point guard on a deep playoff team. So every time in the playoffs, remember that thing people always tell us all the time? Well, in the NBA, it's really not positional. Oh, really? Until you get to the playoffs, where guess what? The last 5 minutes of a playoff game, who is your point guard? They get everybody's involved in the offense, gets the ball to the player with a hot hand and a hot hand and a dice game. Those are the best kind, and whoever gets can make foul shots, and that's what you want to try to do. And that was the reason why the Jazz with a Keontae George of giving him an understanding about the position.
Back to Darren Peterson, you've got this young man who's kind of shining in the first opportunity to really show people what he's about in the summer league. And obviously there's plenty of basketball to play. There's plenty of growing pains that the team will experience with him, that he will experience as an individual in his first NBA season. You got the Ace Bailey question, there with the how much are we resting him, back spasms, health kind of a situation. This Utah Jazz team is kind of not verbally, not outwardly, but they've sort of developed an understanding. We've been given this tacit promise that, like, all right, we're going to compete now. We're going to put all these guys out there now. The gap between Darren Peterson from the experience and the learning level versus the guys he's going to be on the floor with, how long does it take him to close that gap?
A half a season.
Okay.
Yeah, half a year as far as the speed of the game. In the NBA, it's that the biggest factor right now is understanding about the impact of the shot clock, also the speed index, the defensive rules, and also what's allowable with defensive physicality. So a lot of times, players are overzealous. Sean, they're in a stance, they move their feet, commendable, etc., and then suddenly they bow the guy in the face. Guess what? That's a foul. So you have to be able to play with technique and tenacity. And so what Darren Peterson he has talent. The question is, can you play with technique, and do you have tenacity defensively of doing it consistently? And so it'll take about a half a year of normal progress, and that's most people. Darren Peterson is a major talent, and the Jazz or the benefit of it, even though it was painful, this guy's well worth the wait. Now, the question is, as always, is his teammates now, his floor mates, all right, his buddy mates. How did he perceive him, and can he make his team better? And can Jaren Jackson make him better? Can Keontae George make him better? Can Larry Markkinen make him better? Can Yusuf Nurkic? Oh, by the way, please give me a screen. Give me a screen in the game. Yusuf Nurkic, who the Jazz signed with a very good, I'll call it team-friendly, $11 million contract. Sean, the last week or so, I've been, wherever I went, Sean, people have asked me about Walker Kessler, about, do you think it's the right thing to do? The answer is absolutely, unequivocally, yes. The Jazz liked Walker Kessler. He was homegrown, meaning they drafted him. They offered him a tremendous contract, $28 million a year, whole bunch of money. That was the largest contract that a non-NBA All-Star center ever received.
Yes,
$28 million. His agent thought it was insulting it. He walked away, got more money one last year with the Lakers. So the Jazz didn't blink. Now they pivoted. Yusuf Nurkic have traded with a rebound by committee right now. But more importantly is that you don't want to overpay dramatically on somebody that's unproven. The Lakers are the opposite, saying that it doesn't matter. We think he can help us as far as defensively. We're awful on defense. We need a shot blocker. He's the guy. I get it.
If you're Keontae George and you're his agents and you see the Jazz move on from that albatross number that Walker Kessler was going to represent, you got to feel really good that now that money's coming to you, right?
Correct. Absolutely. The Keontae George, fourth year, he's done a good job. His first year or two, I called. He was shooting angry. I'll show you how you're disrespecting me. And then to his credit and the maturity of most players that index, when do you mature? Is it 22 years old? Is it 27 years old? Is it 37 years old? Hey, Sean, I know some guys that are 87 years old and they're still immature. So it happens. So, but with Keontae George is that he has a high level of maturity, and now his representation, which used to be Washington Media Group, the guy got in trouble with the Epstein files, Sean, if you know what I mean. Now it's called Team. TEAM. That's the new, not new agency, but the new now title of the Washington Media Group that moved away from Casey Wasserman, and now it's Keontae George. That's his agent, and it should be interesting what they do with him.
All right, we're going to stay on clock here. Gordy's with us for the hour, so we'll have him until about 12:30. Lots of different things happening around the NBA. It's not just the Utah Jazz keeping a close eye on the roster and reorganizing things. LeBron James has yet to make a decision. We'll talk about that. Other trades that have gone down and maybe some movement that still will. We'll get into all of it with Gordy Chiesa, brought to you by Aladdin Industries. On the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Gordy Chiesa hanging out with us for another 40-ish minutes. Talking all things NBA hoop. Summer League basketball, big-time matchup. A.J. DeBonsa, Darren Peterson going head-to-head. We're going to get into that here in just a little bit. But former Jazz man Donovan Mitchell, look, multiple-time All-Star, multiple-time All-NBA. And Cleveland said, all right, you've done enough. Let's back up the Brinks truck. Donovan Mitchell with a mega extension, big-time money. What do you think of the contract and Donovan's decision to make Cleveland the long-term, or at least the medium-term home?
Well, for Donovan Mitchell, it's an unbelievable contract. Remember, he got the Supermax twice now. So he signed two Supermax contracts with the same team, the Cavaliers. So he's invested in. A lot of times people say he wants out. That's delusionary because he's proven already that he likes being there and playing in that system. And the general manager, Kobe Altman, has done a good job as far as the roster of making it competitive. And, Sean, we know right now that it's not over yet as far as Cleveland's roster, that if they move Max Strus this week or next week, that gives some money now to get possibly LeBron James. So if you see Max Strus being traded, then LeBron is probably leaning towards that. All right, Donovan, you love the guy. Overachiever as far as that 6'3". He's an all-NBA player. He plays hard. He's fearless right now. And do you realize that Darren Peterson has more natural talent than Donovan Mitchell? Do you realize that? Because he does. Now, Donovan, again, in a weird way, I'm saying that he overachieved so far in his career because at 6'3", he's a size challenge at his position. But he overcomes it with great ball skills, tenacity, and he's an intelligent person. The contract, it's what it is that he's a superstar player of a franchise that has to have him on their team to remain competitive for the next, we'll say, 5 years, to say the least, and that it makes sense for Donovan to sign it, and it makes sense. But quickly, it's a 4 years at $273 million extension. All right, remember, this is a new era with the TV contracts led with the partners with TV, with Amazon coming in full-fledged now, is that the contracts are accelerating. Luka Doncic and Victor Wembanyama someday will be the first players ever to make $100 million in a year. Sean, I didn't say a lifetime, which is a whole bunch of money. I'm saying in a year. That's how crazy it is. Will it ever stop, Sean? I don't know.
Maybe if we stop watching TV, but not until then. Donovan could have waited a year and signed another year, and that fifth year would have been worth $80 million in that fifth year. Instead, he gets the 4-year extension. The biggest number on that one is a $75 million player option for the 2030 and 2031 season. I'm sure that there's team salary cap mechanisms to this. There's a conversation with your family, your agent, and all that kind of stuff. The bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, obviously. There's a thing in sport that we have become accustomed to, and that a reality we've had to accept, that you are not guaranteed anything, really. So signing it this level of money, this extension now makes sense, but he is leaving $80 million on the table by not waiting a year. Was that the right decision?
Yes, because just also as far as his age group. So Donovan turns 30 years young, emphasize young, on September 7th. So the 4-year contract now goes from to 34 years old. And just say, in his world, besides the money guaranteed in case of an injury, God forbid, at age 34, it's almost like Steph Curry type. I can still, at a high level, I can get another contract one more time for another 4 years. Sean, at that time, what do you think? I don't exaggerate, Sean. On average, I'm exaggerating, $75 million on average 4 years from now.
Well, the way the current inflation is going, certainly.
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why they did that for. One, to protect themselves from an injury, and two, at age 34. I know it sounds crazy. Oh, what? 34 to 35, what's the difference? The difference is that 1 year is a huge thing as far as how you're perceived. I'm 34 equals 38 4 years later. At 35, I'm 39. difference as far as playing at an elite level.
You and I have talked about this with a lot of other players, right? That some guys, as you age, you have to alter your game, right? You can't be such a vertical, explosive type player anymore. You've talked about why guys like Jokic, he's not an above the rim player. He plays on the floor. Donovan Mitchell is explosive. How much is he going to have to, I don't know, round out the other parts of his game when he reaches the end of this contract?
He does. The answer is absolutely yes. You can go airborne, but be selectively. You're 30. He's 30 right now. I mentioned September. So around 32 years old, give or take a year or so, you really realize that I still have serious hops, and I can play airborne. But, however, when I come crashing to the ground, it really is the difference right now. And so what you want to do is be selective as far as you always want to attack the lane, but selectively attack the rim. And that's the difference as far as the maturity of it. Most players that have done that over the years have a longer career. They are, in particular, Michael Jordan with that fadeaway jump shot, and Kobe Bryant did the exact same thing also with that. Now, Steph Curry, his game is different because he doesn't go airborne. He goes more over the top of you on the defense right now. So Donovan will be the next guy. And all the young fellas that go airborne all the time. Okay, so Anthony Edwards. Someday, Sean, will make that adjustment mentally, physically, and almost spiritually, where I can still play at a high level, but airborne, I'm only going to go blue sky some of the time.
Sure. You already teased this, but Cleveland is hoping that the Donovan Mitchell domino is just the first to fall in a massive week or a massive couple of weeks for them. They're going to extend James Harden, it sounds like. And
yes,
then they're going to get – their hope is that they get LeBron James to choose a return to Cleveland. This would be his third stint, of course, with the Cavaliers, and we assume his final ride in the NBA. How likely do you think it is that LeBron James ends up wearing a Cavs uniform alongside Donovan Mitchell and James Harden?
Very likely. The answer is yeah. He played for the Cavs now twice, you mentioned, for a total of 11 years. Lakers played for 8 years, and for the Heat, 4 years. LeBron turns 42 on December 30th. So, again, the contract's going to be, it sounds crazy, just a bare minimum, like it's the minimum, because they really can't fit him into the salary cap as far as that, and also the second apron. So the Cavaliers, just say they would start James Harden at, I'll call him a point guard Harden, Donovan Mitchell at 2, LeBron at 3, Evan Mobley, young fella, talent, all-star at 4, and then Jared Allen at 5. So that's their team. And locally here, Sam Merrill, Utah State, would be off the bench for them, making jump shots right now for them. And so that's their starting lineup, plus other guys they drafted already that will help them. So the point is that that's an elite team with LeBron there playing it. All right, so the question is, how can LeBron and James Harden play in harmony? The answer is, yes, they can. Both of them can. Is that James Harden knows that he's almost like a hired gun. LeBron is a hired gun, but he's the best player in the world as we speak right now, with only Michael Jordan being ahead of him. And so even at the top of the apex, the players might not admit it, but they know who it is. It's Donovan 1, LeBron 2, and then James Harden 3. So that's the pecking order, and they all know it. Will they talk about it and have a kumbaya moment? Okay, you want a hug? You want a hug right now about this? Wonderful. But that's the reality of it.
Well, it does create an interesting dynamic when Donovan Mitchell just signed this contract, and it's the team and the organization saying, you're our guy. You're our number one guy. The paycheck tells you that in the NBA. Obviously, he is not as old as LeBron James. He's a guy who grew up as a fan of LeBron James. He has rubbed shoulders with LeBron, but it's different than being a teammate and working with him every day and being influenced by him every day. And I guess to some extent having your own influence on LeBron, even though he feels pretty set in his ways. So pairing Donovan Mitchell, the former Jazz man, who still, I mean, he's obviously an established star already in the NBA. Is LeBron where he's at right now in his career? Is he going to make Donovan Mitchell better?
Yes, very much. By giving him a mental health break during games. Donovan gets in trouble sometimes in playoff games where there's so much pressure on the star player to score. James Harden, unfortunately, in his world, has struggled historically in playoff games. All right, Donovan's been great. However, often in the fourth quarter, he's so worn out, not physically, but it's mentally. LeBron's going to be what? Going to help Donovan with less taxing on his body and also on his mind. LeBron can still deliver. Last year, LeBron averaged 25.9 points per game, 51.3 from the field, 35.6 from three, 7.3 rebounds, and 7.3 assists at age 41. Yikes, Sean. That's hard to do, and he did it right now. And so he's still at top of his game. LeBron is entering his 24th season, meaning the 26-27 season. I'm assuming, Sean, he's trying to play to 25 years, to be a quarter of a century playing at an elite level, which might never happen again in the history of basketball.
All right, I want to take another break. We're going to talk about some of the current free agents that are on Gordy's radar. We're going to talk a little bit about the Summer League premier matchup that we have coming. Hold on, James. I'm lost on my... Aha. Spence Checketts and The Drive are at Soldier Hollow today from 2 to 6. So get yourself off work early. Head to Soldier Hollow Golf Course up there in Heber and join Spence Checketts in The Drive at the Utah Men's State Amateur Soldier Hollow Golf Course. Spence will be on air from 2 to 6. Listen to him on the way up. Go say hello to him at the golf course. Keep it right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, there's been big news all around the NBA, even though we're right in the middle of the offseason. Summer League basketball, we'll get to the Darren Peterson, A.J. DeBonsa matchup before we cut Gordy loose. But there's still some healthy free agents out there on the market, Gordy, that have not found a home as of yet. What is this process like for those guys?
Agony. How dare you not sign me the first day of free agency? It's an awful feeling that your agents keep saying to you, we're working on this deal. It's almost like a domino effect. If so-and-so signs here, then you can go to this team. And so but by the way, I'm a good player. It should be the other way around. I should be dictating the terms. It doesn't work like that only some of the time for the elite players in their prime. There's always one outlier, and that's LeBron James. So he's the one guy I'm in the short list. I listed 12 guys that everybody knows about that can still play in the NBA, that got street cred, and I'm shocked that they're not signed yet. That could change an hour from now.
All right.
Here's some of the guys. Kevin Love, who played for the Jazz this past year, still can play in an NBA game at age 38, off the bench contributor.
Is there room for him on the Jazz roster?
All right, Jazz right now, as you speak right now, they have 15 guaranteed contracts.
Okay.
They could waive somebody and take the hit on the salary cap, so it's possible. Now, remember, they just signed Mo Bamba yesterday, and so that's probably their third center, probably. All right, it's still possible though. All right, number 11, Jonas Valanciunas just got waived by the Nuggets because his contract would have been next year would have been valid then. The Nuggets opted out, so now he's out there. All right, former Jazz man, sharpshooter George Niang. Sure, he can play in the game and make rainbow threes from the corner. He's saying, why not me? All right, DeMar DeRozan, heading to the Hall of Fame, played for the Sacramento Kings last year, is still a productive scorer. He's out there. He got waived by mutual consent, and now they call it the stretch provision. They're going to stretch out his contract for the next 3 years. He's out there. All right, Benedict Mathurin is restricted free agent for the Clippers. He's got game. He can play. He's playing well for the Clippers last year. They haven't re-signed him yet because they're waiting for other things. All right, Peyton Watson of the Denver Nuggets, young fella, UCLA, bouncy, 6'6". As the Nuggets have a hard time playing defense, this guy can guard. He's restricted. The Nuggets are saying to him, we love you, dog. However, we're not going to pay you as far as until someone bids on you. So if no one bids on you, we're going to give you a fair contract. Agents saying, wait a second, that's we want more. And that's the power pull right now. All right, Jonathan Kuminga that we talked about, you and I shown the last 2 years. Golden State was there. He left. He goes to Atlanta. Atlanta walked away from $24.3 million because, hey, we love your talent, but we're not sure about you as far as you fitting in here with our group right now. He's out there. All right, Spencer Dinwiddie off the bench as a point guard, age 33. Everybody loves him as far as a backup point guard. He's out there right now. Russell Westbrook, the devil. The devil, Sean, or I'm misguided. I'm misguided. Hey, I'm misguided, as he's saying right now. He's out there right now. All right, Draymond Green. He opted out of $27.6 million, Sean, whole bunch of money, because he's saying that I can get another year or so extension by the Warriors if we don't get LeBron. It's his oldest domino effect.
Yeah.
All right, he's out there. All right, James Harden. He opted out of $42.3 million because he's saying that I don't want to sign. Give me 2 years at, let's go, Sean. Let's go at 35 and 35 equals $70 million. So I go into sunset at age 39, and then there's the number one domino effect of all of them is LeBron James.
Sure.
Once LeBron commits whatever he's doing, then a lot of these guys fall into different teams right now. That's my top 12.
Okay. Not his official list today, by the way, but one that is worth discussing. And there was a couple names on there, that are from a culture standpoint, from a locker room standpoint, right? You bring in LeBron James, everybody on the roster's happy. The fan base is probably happy. The ticket sellers are happy. The jersey sellers are happy. That kind of a thing. Draymond Green is as polarizing a figure as you're going to find in the NBA. Now, one thing that you have to admit about Draymond, if you're a staunch hater, he's a good basketball player, and he does the things that every team needs. He'll rebound for you. He'll get under another team's skin. He'll play defense. He can hit a three-point shot when you need him to. But he has been a warrior, and he's been, like, insulated from all of that other stuff. They know how to handle him. Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson to some extent while he was still there, they all kind of knew how to deal with the mess of Draymond Green, and they made it worth it. I'm not confident if I'm a GM elsewhere that the same thing happens with my team because of Draymond's personality, because of his history. I'm not sure that my fan base is going to like the idea of having that guy at this age, at this number, whatever. A bunch of the other guys on your list, Gordy, it's just like, all right, if and when these guys get signed, it's going to make sense for the team. Draymond, and to a lesser extent, I think Russell Westbrook, not quite so easy to make those decisions. But starting with Draymond, what kind of process are you going through as a coaching staff, as a front office, to make sure that you want to bring him in?
You're going to pause right now because you're right. Your point is very valid, where the Warriors understand his personality, and he's played well for them most of the time. Here's the math of it right now. He's 36 years young right now. He's entering his 15th season. And so we're talking a new contract would be probably no more than 2 years. And so they're waiting to see about with LeBron and other players, and they're probably going to do it for 2 years. And that 2 years would then, Sean, would also be the exact same contract with Steph Curry and also Steve Kerr. So it's possible. Again, it's in the discussion point that all three those guys could go into the sunset altogether. Meaning what? They had this great, incredible run of 4 championships in an 8-year window where they played tremendous team basketball. So that's going to happen. With other teams, it's unlikely they want him. Okay, Russell Westbrook, he's heading to the Hall of Fame. He's a walking triple-double, but there's something missing as far as him, he's like a wild card.
Sure.
That's what he is. And that's why he's a tremendous player. However, also, there's things about him on the court, especially when he takes those ill-advised three-point shots when it's crucial time. And I call that a shooting turnover, where it's worse than a turnover because if it's a turnover, if it's out of bounds, the clock stops. He casts the three-point shot, hits the back rim, then suddenly it's a long rebound and off to the races as far as transition.
Well, it's why I asked this question, because when you're talking about guys like this who they've already proven their worth, they've already proven themselves in the NBA, they've already made enough money. Like, they're playing because they still love the game. They're playing because they can still make money playing the game. If you're a team, though, you're not going to give them top dollar because of where they're at age-wise at that point in their career. And also, I think you have to ask the question for yourself, do they get me closer to my goal this year? Do they get me closer to a championship? Is Russell Westbrook the piece that puts you over the hump if you're right there as a championship contender? Feels like no.
No, the answer is no. It's highly unlikely.
Right?
No,
and if you're
if you're a young team, you don't want him influencing the players.
Same thing potentially with Draymond Green. I think Draymond's got more, gas left in the tank than Russell Westbrook does, but he's also a lot more problematic, I think, personality-wise in some ways. I mean, Russell Westbrook, say what you want about him, he's never punched a teammate in the face to our knowledge, right? So there's all of this, and I know they're good basketball players, but you can't just say, oh, well, he's a good basketball player, so I want him on my team. If he's a quiet guy, a hardworking, humble guy, someone that's not going to ruffle any feathers, sure, you can probably just do that. But with those personalities in particular, we talk about it all the time, Gordy, you're allowed to do that if it translates to winning or more winning. Steve Kerr probably hated having to deal with Draymond sometimes, but he's like, you know what? He serves the role he's supposed to serve. On game days, he's really valuable to us. I don't know if I'm a GM ready to make that decision. Does Draymond Green get me over the hump, whatever I think the hump is? And even then, I'm like, probably not.
Unlikely. Also, with Steve Kerr dealing with Draymond Green, is that also when Steve Kerr played for the Bulls, with Dennis Rodman.
Sure.
So he's around people with different personalities, and they have a winning game.
And Steph's personality is one
Absolutely.
that allows you to, because he's like the sort of the quiet killer. He's the guy who doesn't have to be coddled. He's not the guy that you have to tell him he's the alpha and let him be vocal about being the alpha. He's just that guy, right? Like if Draymond and LeBron don't work together the way that Draymond and Steph did for all those years.
Very much. So with Steph Curry, he has a dominant game without a dominant voice, and that's when your teams win. For example, Lakers in yesteryear when they had Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol, it was a perfect working relationship. Kobe had a dominant game and a dominant voice. Pau Gasol had a dominant game with no voice in a good way. And then with the Lakers before that, it was two personalities with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe. Both guys dominant games and dominant voices. But Phil Jackson had the ability to get everybody on that same page most of the time. And the Lakers won 3 championships from 2000 to 2002. 2002, 01, 02. So it does happen, but it's so much is called a chemistry. It's this unbelievable balance, this winning potion of how players' personalities, how they mesh together at that time of their career. So that's what makes it so interesting. And that's every sport, especially the team sport, where a player can play on a certain team and fit well, but in the next team, he doesn't.
Darren Peterson versus A.J. DeBonsa, right? I don't know how many times we're going to see them actually D'ing up one another in that game, but it seemed clear as they get ready to face one another, Peterson with the Jazz, A.J. with the Wizards, it seemed clear through the draft process that, you know, they were cordial with one another, but there's like, they're not best friends. They're not friendly necessarily, right? There's an intensity to the relationship maybe. And this is the first time we get to see them as professionals squaring off against one another. And I guess, you know, using the other guy as the litmus test, as the measuring stick. What do you expect from that matchup, that dynamic, as they square off in Summer League?
The first thing is that you want to be ultra aggressive, both guys. But what happens a lot of times, you get so hyper about the matchup is that you struggle, and there's so much energy taken away from you in the first part of the game. And just like it's almost like a playoff game where you want to play so well that you struggle because of the mental part of it. So if I was counseling both players, I would say to them that be ultra aggressive, but take a deep breath often to understand that let the game come to you versus you being so aggressive where you're out of control. That's the first thing. The second thing is that this is still a one-time game, in as far as in the Summer League. There'll be 1,000 other games coming along that you're going to play against top-level teams. Take it for what it is. It's the first Summer League game, 1 versus 2, and that what you want to do is actually also enjoy it. Remember last year, Victor Wembanyama, the hype last year? Remember him in the tunnel? They kept on showing him in the tunnel. This is a guy that, 3 years ago now, when he was a rookie. This is ending tonight right now. Slow down your thought process. Take your time. Be aggressive, but don't be out of control.
Gordy, there's a funny story about Will Hardy having to teach Darren Peterson who Ed Reed, the Hall of Fame NFL safety Ed Reed was, because I guess the Jazz have a defensive shift call. They shout Raven at each other.
Raven, yeah.
Raven, and part of that is because Will Hardy loved the Ravens and he loved Ed Reed, and apparently in a film session he had Darren Peterson, and Darren Peterson was 5 years old. So he was 5 years old the last time Ed Reed played football. So he doesn't know who Ed Reed is. And so Will Hardy made him do some homework and watch Ed Reed highlights. You're a guy who's been through, 5 different generations of basketball, 5 different generations of pro sports. Did you ever have moments like that where you would reference a player, you would reference an athlete, you would reference anything to the younger players, and they'd look at you like, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't know who that is?
Well, here's one with Karl Malone, where Karl Malone is a student of the game. So one time, many times we're in an airplane, to say the least. But it was around 3 o'clock in the morning, and Carl never sleeps, and neither do I. And so Carl came down to me on the 3 o'clock in the morning on the airplane, and we started talking, which is we did often. However, he said to me, Gordy, tell me about Bob Pettit. So Bob Pettit was this all-NBA player in the Hall of Fame for Louisiana State. And so he's a power forward. And so Carl wanted to know about Bob Pettit, how he played like. And so I described Bob Pettit to Carl, and that's the one moment I remember in particular where a guy sought someone that saw him play, who he played like, and did I play like him? And the answer is somewhat, because so much different. Bob Pettit was 6'9", very similar to Carl, weighed 250 pounds, very similar to Carl, but Carl had much more hops and much more versatility, different era. So I remember that particular 3 o'clock in the morning, and Carl, we're in Cleveland. We're flying into Cleveland at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's what we did.
Back to AJ versus Darren. We kind of hope for rivalries, not only team but personal rivalries develop between star players, and there's been different eras of NBA basketball that, naturally give us that. And then there's like the friendship era where Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and Chris Paul and all these guys just want to, like LeBron, they want to play Kumbaya together and stuff. I think Victor Wembanyama and this younger generation are the pendulum has swung back the other way, where these guys want to have a little bit of a frosty relationship with one another. For Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonsa, they played in the same conference in college. 1-2 in the draft. I imagine that there's some dynamic that exists because of that. But one guy's with the Jazz in the West, and one guy's with the Wizards in the East. So it's not like they're going to see each other a ton, maybe until we get to playoff basketball, hopefully this year, but also later on in their careers. Does it make sense that these two would, I guess, cultivate a rivalry between one another?
Very much, absolutely. Now, they're going to play each other twice a year, once at home and once, for Darren Peterson's point of view, in Washington, D.C. And then let's hope it happens someday. They play in the postseason together, which means then NBA champion, the finals then, which would be great right now. So Darren Peterson, so it's your age group. We're both young fellas, 19, 20 years old, and that's your group right now that you had to play against. And Donovan Mitchell now is age 30. It just shows you how time flies. Donovan's going to be 30 right now, and Cade Cunningham is in his prime. He's at 25 years old. And Anthony Edwards is 25 years old. And Jamal Murray right now is at 28 years old. And Jalen Brunson is 29 years old. So these are all guys that were elite players, and this is a new generation of people. So now it's going to be AJ with Darren Peterson. But the point about this is that it's more about their team, though. So the question always is, how can I showcase my talent level to the extreme, but help my teammates get better and our team wins? And that's the thing that most players don't understand, is that this is about winning. Even though you have an unbelievable talent level, you've got to play to win. And my instincts tell me that both these guys do right now. It should be an exciting time for the NBA. These guys, all these guys, like many players in the draft. Remember, Cam Boozer also is playing. Sean, let's watch also when Cam Boozer plays also for the Memphis Grizzlies, what he's going to do right now. And Boozer is a tremendous young talent also. He's in that group also.
Your philosophy on the sophomores in Summer League basketball, the guys who they've already been through a full NBA season. Obviously Summer League is designed mostly for rookies and newcomers and guys trying to break in. But, guys like Cooper Flagg and Stephon Castle, who have some star power to them, the Spurs are shutting down Castle. They're not going to have him play Summer League. What are your thoughts on the older guys for Summer League?
Well, right now in Jazz basketball, that some of the players that they're going to go right now, and that's Cody Williams. This is third year. So Cody Williams should be able to play well on most possessions in the Summer League, and he has, to his credit. He's gotten stronger. He's much more confident. Ace Bailey, we'll see if he plays any time right now. For the listeners, he has back spasms, So they held them out the last few games here in Salt Lake City. Now starts the new saga tonight. It's going to be in Las Vegas right now. Sean, Las Vegas. Do you call it the sin capital?
Sin City, baby?
Do you call it that?
It's not. Well, the sin that I'm guilty of in Vegas is gluttony. I end up eating way too much when I'm down there.
You mean Mr. Buffet?
Love the buffets. Love all the, fancy 5-star restaurants.
Really?
Spend too much money on food and eat way too much food every time I go to Vegas.
All
I don't gamble.
Right.
Because I lose too quickly. And then I'm like, I could have done something else with that $500, right? I'm not into all the other crazy stuff that happens in Vegas. So, dinner is the show for me in Vegas. That's the sin for me, the gluttony.
Okay.
What about you?
No, I'm the opposite.
You're on the tables? You're on blackjack all night?
No, not really. No, I watch people.
Oh, all right.
I like watching those people.
People,
like your type.
People watching at a Vegas casino is elite. It's as good as it gets.
Really, I learned a lot about human behavior. Some good, some bad, and often ugly.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Especially in Vegas. What is your official list for the day, Gordy?
My list today is a short list, and it's who's who in basketball as far as yesteryear. Players in the NBA history to be selected for at least 8 All-NBA teams and 8 All-Defensive teams. So 8 and 8. You're an elite player as far as All-NBA, and also you're the All-Defensive team. These players listed below were two-way game standouts at an elite level. All possess versatility and longevity. So it's 8 and 8. Here we go. Chris Paul, number 10. Number 9, Kevin Garnett. Number 8 on this list, Gary Payton. Number 7, David Robinson. Number 6, Hakeem Olajuwon. Again, this list is based on 8 NBA teams, All-Pro, and 8 defensive teams. Number 6, Hakeem Olajuwon. Number 5, John Havlicek. Number 4, Kobe Bryant. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 2, Michael Jordan. And number 1 is amazing. Before I say his name, this guy is the most ever. He was 15 times voted All-NBA, All-Pro, and 15 times voted All-Defensive team. 15 and 15. The criteria was 8 and 8, which is unbelievable. I mentioned these guys here. This guy is 15 and 15.
Almost did it twice over. Wow.
All right. So, Sean, do you know who it is? Just think about NBA basketball.
Bill Russell?
All right. Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, unfortunately, they didn't keep all-defensive NBA team until 1969. So Bill Russell retired then. These guys would have on this list, but Wilt and Bill Russell were a different era, unfortunately. All right, the number 1 guy in the NBA with the most ever 8 and 8 All-Pros, All-Defensive team. This guy was 15 and 15, Tim Duncan.
Wow.
All right,
the big fundamental.
So the Spurs have 2 guys on this list, David Robinson and Tim Duncan, of the top 10 of all time. Gets even better. Victor Wembanyama, talk about the Spurs' good fortune. At age 22, he already has right now 1 All-NBA and 2 All-Defensive team. So minus major injury, he'll be on this list quickly. What about Jazz basketball? Karl Malone was voted 14 times All-NBA and 4 All-Defensive teams. John Stockton voted 11 times All-NBA and 5 All-Star defensive teams. Quickly, in Jazz basketball in present tense, let's hope that someone on the Jazz roster can make All-Pro as far as being the top NBA players, but also be voted All-Defensive teams.
We're looking at you, Darren Peterson. That's your job.
Sean, 15 and 15.
That's insane.
Duncan.
And he never looked like he was trying hard to do any of it. You know what I mean? Well, he always had that casual look on his face.
That's what you call economy of motion.
Yeah.
And that's what he had right now. Very similar, Sean, to you.
That's right. That's
Sean,
exactly right.
When you fought, Sean, you were really analytical.
I was the opposite of that.
You're analytical. What are you talking about?
I'm the anti-Tim Duncan. when it comes to that. It's actually there's a huge fight this weekend coming up, and I've been talking about it's Conor McGregor's coming back.
Right.
Max Holloway's my favorite fighter, and he's fighting Conor McGregor. And a big thing about McGregor at his height is that he would just pick his shots so well. He was deadly accurate, right? He wouldn't throw things unless they were going to land. And now he's been out for 5.5 years. So the question is, does he still have that? If you haven't been cultivating it, if you haven't been training it, if you haven't been honing that skill, do you have it? Tim Duncan, 15 years of that, more than 15 years, but just 15 and 15, like you're saying. But that economy of motion is important in every sport.
Sean, peace out.
Gordy Chiesa, he's the man. Brought to you by Aladdin Industries. If you're looking for a skylight to put in your home, Aladdin Industries is your Velux dealer here in our home state. All right, I have a brilliant idea for Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Jersey patches are being bought and put on Big 12 uniforms. Ripple did it for Kansas. We heard about UNLV getting a nice number. Monster Energy, of course, gets to be on every Big 12 jersey. But how do we feel about the truck with the duck, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling on a Utah jersey? I'm going to pitch it to Rob, the brains behind the operation. I'm going to do that next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, time for my genius pitch to Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Rob in studio with us. Caden also in studio. They have important things to talk about here in just a second. But, Rob, here's my pitch for you, okay?
Let's hear it.
We're at Big 12 Media Days these last couple of days, right? We find out that a Monster Energy patch is going on every jersey for men's and women's basketball and for football. Every team has to wear Monster Energy, but they can also sell their own logos on the jersey, all right? My proposal is Utah football, truck with the duck. Get that duck right on the front of the Utah football jerseys. It'll probably only cost you $5 or $6 million.
No biggie.
No biggie. All right. Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling presenting Utah football. What do you think?
See, I don't want to be on Utah's jersey. I want to be on BYU's jersey.
Yeah, he's a BYU guy.
No, I'll put my competitor on Utah's jersey.
Turn off his microphone. We're the home of the Utes, baby. No, it's wild to think about. I never thought we'd get to a point in college sports where we had advertisements on jerseys. That's a European sports thing. It started to trickle into American pro sports, and now it's in college sports.
It's private equity at its finest.
It's
right? You got to get paid. They want to get paid, and they want to get paid now.
Yeah, that's exactly how it rolls. All right. Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. It is hot right now in the Valley. It is hot everywhere in the state of Utah right now. And last time we had you on, we talked about it. Like, make the phone call when it's not blazing hot because the schedule might be a little bit more open for Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. But you're still going to get people out there if we've got problems.
We're going to do whatever we got to do to get out there and get you helped out. We understand a lot of people are busy, and we get it. But we have built around that knowing that we're going to have these fluctuations. But, yeah, it is hot, and your systems are going to be completely overworked coming up here. I mean, what is 104, 105, 106 coming up?
Yikes.
And so, do what you got to do to get it done. Give us a call. We'll come out immediately. Or, worst case scenario, stops working. Give us a call. We'll do what we can do.
I'm glad you brought Caden in. Caden, you're in charge of excavation, right? Like the underground plumbing.
I sure am. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, this is something oftentimes when we're talking about I need a plumber, you think, I got a leaky faucet, my toilet's acting up, whatever. The call that is really tough to make, and you don't know, am I calling a landscaping company?
Sprinkler guy?
Am I doing sprinklers here? That underground plumbing, that's a big job. It feels like a big, daunting, scary job every single time, but that is your area of expertise. Valley Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and underground plumbing. You can handle that.
Yes, sir. Yep, anything of that nature. We do everything from big sewer lines, little sewer lines, big main water line, big, huge systems, everything of that nature, and we do all of it.
I'm going to have you come out to my house. I hate that I have so many examples at my own house of the stuff going wrong, but this is a true story from last summer. So my stop and waste valve, right, with the big old sprinkler key?
Yes, sir.
All of you out there who own a home, you know what I'm talking about. Mine is 14 inches underneath the
good.
sidewalk. It's not 6 feet deep.
Yeah.
Where it's supposed to be.
Should be. Yeah.
Right? So I had a guy out there repairing a sprinkler valve, and we had just turned it on, and he's like, "Whoa, what's going on with this?" I said, "Yeah, man, the house was built in like 1960. They probably haven't done anything with it since." And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna dig this out a little bit more. I'm gonna give you a bid, and so we can like drop this down and put it where it's supposed to be." I'm like, "Okay, great, cool, sounds good." And then he dug a hole. He had his shovel and his stuff out there. He was digging in my front little park strip for about 3 hours. He knocked on the door and he goes, "Man, I'm really sorry, but this is beyond my capacity." He's like, "You got a bunch of crazy pipe down there. You got all this stuff. This is going to be a massive job. You're going to need to call someone who's a little bit further up the food chain." And I was just like, he's like, I'm going to put it all back the way it was before, but you're going to need to get this fixed sooner than later. So, Caden, you're going to be coming to my house
Yes,
soon.
sir. You call me. Rob, how often do we hear that?
But you know what? I got to give it to him because most people will just be like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep doing it.
Try it.
And problems. And then they're like, sorry, man, you paid.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
And you know what? I was happy to pay him what we had already agreed on because I mean, he was honest.
Yeah.
He was just like, if I start tearing this up, I'm probably going to make it worse than it is because it's working fine.
Good for
but
him.
he's like, at some point, you got rusty pipes that are 60 years old, whatever, and you're gonna freeze.
Yeah.
This valve's gonna freeze at some point. It literally is
him.
like a foot down.
Yeah.
At
So
least he tried.
yeah, he had great integrity. Shout out to that guy. You know,
Good
he
for
listens. But yeah, it's one of those things. Especially, I live up in the avenues, these older homes and stuff like that. You're getting to a point now where your water main is probably going to be something that needs to be looked at.
Yep.
And you don't. Not only do you not want to have to deal with it yourself, but you got to make sure that the company that you call knows what they're doing. Because not everyone's going to be as honest as that guy was.
That is true.
That's why we got to call Valley.
Well,
Yes, sir.
here's the interesting thing, too, and you can look this up. There's a big thing going on right now in Salt Lake City where they've actually looked into how many homes still have lead water lines.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal. They still have a lot of lead water lines, which, I mean, was it Michigan that had the problem with the lead, lead water lines?
Flint, Michigan.
There you go. So, I mean, they have a lot of lead water lines here, and the city is working to figure out who's got them, figure out how we can get them changed. You know, we run into them from time to time, and, you know, we know what to do. We replace that. We put in the newer style plastic water lines, and then you don't have to worry about that anymore because that can be an issue. You know, so we do run into it quite a bit. So that's something to look at.
Before I cut you guys loose, Caden, you're going to be coming and helping me out with the water line. But we can't talk to him about sports because of what he just revealed. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
you a Ute fan?
Yes,
you
sir.
a football?
Diehard Utah fan.
I'm
Utah
the only
fan.
BYU guy in the office. All
right.
And,
but that's okay.
And I remember you guys talking about the NHL playoffs. I'm probably the only Pittsburgh Penguin fan in the state too. So
Well,
yes, sir.
We'll
Yep.
forgive you on the
Yep.
Penguins thing right now. You think how much Crosby have left in the tank?
I think 2 years maybe.
Yeah?
I think
All
maybe 2 years. When Ovechkin goes, I think Crosby's going too.
All right, coming off of Big 12 Media Days, Devin Dampier, all those guys were down there. We had a chance to talk to them. You also have Bird Ficklin waiting in the wings.
Yes,
Two
sir.
quarterback situation. What do you think the balance is? Are we seeing 80% Devin, 20% Bird? I've been kind of polling the fans on this.
I think it's going to be a 70-30 is
Okay.
what I think it's going to be. And I think that they're going to bring a Bird out in some packages that are really going to be, I don't know, that Rhino package. I think that he could be putting that Rhino package
Let's go.
and do something crazy. But we'll see what happens there. I'm excited for this year. I think there's a lot of offensive power that we have that we can play with this year.
All right, so give Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling a call. Tell him you got an underground plumbing problem. Caden will come out. You could talk a little Utah football, and he'll fix the problem for you. Best way for our listeners to get a hold of the truck with the duck.
It is 801-341-4222 or www.valleyplumbinghvac.com. Either way, we can get a hold of us.
Get on the phone now. Do not wait. If you think that little leak is going to go away, it's not. It's just going to get bigger, more problematic. If that air conditioner is chugging along like an old lawnmower,
Oh, yeah.
just have them come look at it now because it's about to get really, really hot. Thanks for coming in, fellas.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Rob and Caden from Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. The truck with the duck. Quack, quack, baby. All right, Sean O'Connell Show wages on. Dan Sorensen joins us next. Some takeaways from media days. We got the Gov, Spencer Warren, to talk World Cup still. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Monster Energy Big 12 Media Days wrapped up yesterday afternoon down there at the Star in Frisco, Texas. I'll give the Big 12 credit. It was more organized this year than last. That's as far as the credit's going to go. I think some weird decisions are being made in the Big 12 Conference. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about takeaways from some of the conversations we had with Morgan Scalley, Lance Holtzclaw, Devin Dampier, et cetera, et cetera. Dan Sorensen, kind enough to join us here. Utah football insider. As we get him on, we'll pick brains about some of the big recruiting trips that have happened at the University of Utah, some of the big commitments that they've gotten as of late. Dan Sorensen, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. The media days are the two only long days of radio in our calendar. So we had 8 hours-ish each day and got to talk to the whole Ute contingent yesterday. I know that you were listening to it, aggregating all the content, et cetera, et cetera. Did you have any major takeaways? Was there anything that really stuck out for you from Media Day?
Yeah, look, Media Day is a lot of fun, and I know it's especially a long day for you. Of course, we had Sammy Mora from Ute Zone down on site. I listened pretty heavily yesterday, and it was a good day. I think the things that really stood out to me were, it was a good opportunity for Morgan Scalley to introduce himself to the rest of the conference. And one of my favorite things that he did was in his press conference where he was talking about recruiting Colin Klein, the Kansas State coach, as a quarterback out of Colorado, and talking about his respect for him and talking about his respect for some of the other coaches that are around the league. And I think that kind of thing plays really well, as well it should. And so that was a good opportunity. It was nice to see some of the players and have an opportunity to show their personalities. You guys did a great interview yesterday with Wayshawn Parker and talking about things beyond football and things like NIL and real estate investment, but and weird things like that. But having a chance to get to know him and the character that he is and the personality that he has. A lot of people see that in Devin Dampier because he's visible, right? But you don't always get that with some of the other guys, and there are some impressive guys on this squad. So it was really nice to see an opportunity for those guys to shine and show their personality to fans and that sort of thing. From a news perspective, I never really expect to see a lot coming out of these days, especially because it's pre-fall camp for everybody. And so everybody's still undefeated. Everybody's still optimistic. Everybody's still a champion in their mind, whether it's realistic or not. But overall, it was a good opportunity for the program to showcase itself, especially to the other regions in the conference.
How realistic is optimism for Utah football in Morgan Scalley's first year as a head coach, in a year where you've got to replace 5 starters on the offensive line, in a year where, your defensive line lost some production in the transfer portal and things like that? I mean, you've got two sides to the argument, and I don't really need to lay them out for you. You've got the consistency of a guy that's been on campus for 20-plus years taking over the reins as the head coach, and then you've got the turnover of, just attrition to the NFL, graduation, transfer portal, et cetera, that have taken undeniably some of the best players off of last year's team. You look at the schedule, you look at the fact that it is sometimes difficult for a first-year head coach to get his feet under him right away. How realistic is it for Utah fans to expect a 10-win season like a lot of people seem to?
Look, I'm the #team fun guy, right? So I'm always going to lean towards the optimism side of the equation, especially cautious optimism in regards to this year. And so, look, it's not unrealistic for this program to go out and make a huge statement in Morgan Scalley's first year. Yes, you laid out some of those things in terms of of the things that we don't know. And look, Scally's never been a head coach. There are things he doesn't know what he doesn't know yet. Sometimes you just have to experience the thing before you can really know how you're going to react. I don't know that I've ever seen a head coach be as prepared for the moment that Morgan Scally is right now. He's a smart guy. He's been making himself ready to take over this program and put his stamp on it, and the players really seem to have bought in. But at the same time, I'm not going to really say anybody's wrong for picking Utah 5th or 6th in the league and being skeptical about Morgan Scally. The reason that I think that it's realistic for the Utes to make a statement has got less to do with Scally and his coaching staff and everything to do with who the starting quarterback is. Anybody that's been watching college football for a long time, you know that a strong quarterback can cover up an awful lot of flaws on a team and can account for. It's the one position where that player can account for wins almost by themselves. Scally, he said it yesterday at Big 12 Media Day, where last year we saw Devin Dampier and he was hurt all year long. We've not seen a healthy Dev take snaps behind center at the University of Utah. And look, he was so explosive at New Mexico. We saw so many good things that he did last year that he can build upon. And now that he's fully healthy, if he can stay healthy and have a strong season, there really aren't a lot of limits that this team can reach. It's basically how far can Devin lead them, assuming that we see the kind of play that we expect out of him. And so, look, it's a lot of pressure to put on one guy and a lot of expectation to put on one guy. And yes, Bird Ficklen's waiting in the wings. Yes, there are other factors like the fact that there's a new offensive coordinator. There are going to be some wrinkles to the system. But given who the Utes have at quarterback, given the fact that they've got a revamped wide receiver room that Scally has repeatedly said it might be the best wide receiver room in the history of the program, which those are bold words coming out of the gate. There's a lot of reason for optimism. If Dampier stays healthy, if he can do the magic things that he did while he was at New Mexico, even if the offensive line takes a step back, which we fully expect them to do, I still think that this offense can score a lot of points. The defense should be good enough, and this team can win a lot of games coming out of the gate in year one for Morgan Scally.
Dan Sorensen is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking takeaways from media days. Utah on the docket yesterday, BYU and Texas Tech, and some of those teams were day one of media day. And look, I think that you can't talk about the outlook for this Utah season without mentioning the fact that those teams seem to be the number one obstacle between you and a conference championship, you and a college football playoff. Tech is still loaded even without Brendan Sorsby. BYU might be more loaded depending on which lens you're looking at it, and you have to play them. Obviously, the rivalry game has all of this weight to it, especially now that Utah's lost a few on the bounce. Consecutive losses building for this Utah football program, and I feel like that's a massive thing. It's something that you have to reverse sooner than later for recruiting, for perception, for power balance, obviously, in the Big 12. We get to focus on it. The team has to go game by game. But what do you think of the rivalry game coming up in November?
It's going to be a monster game. Look, I am with you. BYU is going to be a really good football team this fall. Bear Bachmeier is more experienced. They got LJ Martin back. That defense, they lost some pieces, but they added some big pieces, especially in Cade Uluave. So there's definitely that is a squad that I think is going to be on a mission. I think they're going to rally around Kalani Sitake. And yes, they lost players. They lost coaches as well. What they're going to do without Jay Hill calling plays on the defense is a big question. But Gary Anderson's still involved in that program. There's a brain trust around Kalani. So I do think that BYU is going to be really good. The fact that the Utes have them at Rice-Eccles Stadium is great for them. And really, when you look at the Utah season, I really think it's going to be defined by that 3-week stretch in November, beginning on the 7th with BYU. Can the Utes beat that 3-game losing streak and knock that away and put themselves above BYU in that race to get to the conference championship game? Then a week later, they go to Arizona, who I think is going to be very, very good. And they've got a senior quarterback, much in the vein of Devin Dampier, that can make plays with his legs, that can win football games for them by himself. And then, of course, the road game at TCU on the 21st. And so those 2 road games back to back, and Utah needing to go down to Dallas, Fort Worth. And look, I don't know that TCU is going to be a juggernaut per se, but it's still a tough trip to make. It's the longest road game that the Utes have this year. And it's back to back after BYU, after a very good Arizona team. So if the Utes can get through that stretch, they're going to be sitting pretty, and we can be talking about potentially college football playoffs. Yes, they've got Houston on the 24th, and Houston, I think, is going to be really good, but that's going to be in Salt Lake City. The rest of the Big 12 schedule looks pretty favorable for the Utes. And so those 3 games are going to be critically important. And it's going to be about how healthy can Morgan Scalley keep this team? How bought in can he keep them long term? And how focused can he keep them long term? And can they come out and can they perform when the pressure's on? There's a really good chance that by the time that Utah hits that BYU game, that they're undefeated or maybe 1 loss. I would not be surprised at all if that were the case. And so if that's the case, then the pressure really gets dialed up, because those are the toughest opponents and the time where they really need to perform. And can a Morgan Scalley team rise to the occasion? We don't know that answer yet. And, Ute fans are hoping and betting that, yes, they will. But, man, that stretch is going to be brutal. And that BYU game is the most important one on the entire schedule.
Since the last time we spoke, Utah got a rash of commitments from important players on their list, important recruiting targets. Do you have a favorite in the class for the 2027 commits?
Yeah, really, it's like your kids, right? Which ones do you like the most? There are really 2 that I really like, and this is an interesting class. The Utes they've put less emphasis on big names and more emphasis on their ability to scout and their ability to project. And the 2 guys that I really, really love for the class are actually both coming in as cornerbacks, both of them from Texas. One of them is Jaden Bibbs out of Coppell High School in Coppell, Texas. He's a high 3-star, a second highest ranked recruit in the class for the Utes. Love him. He made his announcement just after the 19th, or he was the first really of that big wave of commits that came through. But it was basically Utah and Baylor at the end. And this is a kid that, frankly, I think that he's severely underrated in terms of his rankings. When you watch his film, he is aggressive. He is mean as a corner. He's got elite speed. He's got elite coverage skills. He can flip his hips. He reminds me a lot of from a play style of Jalen Johnson. I don't know that he's quite as talented as Jalen was. He was special, which is why he's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL right now. But from an attitude and a mentality and a style of play, that's what he reminds me of. And he's a guy that I think is going to really succeed under Sharif Shah. Similarly, Bug Jacobs. So Derod Jacobs is his given name. His nickname is Bug, which is one of the all-time great nicknames for a Utah commit. But 6'2", 175 out of Memorial High School in Port Arthur, Texas. Another high-rated 3-star kid. He's played mostly safety. So at the high school level, he's going to play cornerback for the Utes. And another guy he's a guy that basically, if you took Scooby Davis's cover skills and mixed it with Marquise Blair's flair for hitting, that's the kind of game that he plays. He's aggressive. He will lay the wood. He's got the athleticism and the speed that he needs to play corner. He's going to be a long corner, which Utah loves. He can play nickel, like what we're going to see out of Rock Caldwell this fall, or he can play outside. And so he's a versatile piece there. And he's another guy that he's just a humble, lunch pail, go to work kind of guy. We talked to his high school coach, and the guy just raved about him and who he is as a leader, who he is as a worker in the weight room, studying film at the high school level even, and his dedication to really improving his craft. And so he's another guy that I'm really excited to see what will happen when he gets on campus working with Sharif Shah. We probably aren't going to see them in the first year other than special teams, but beginning year 2, year 3, these are guys that are going to have an opportunity to establish themselves and potentially play and start multiple years. They're far and away my 2 favorite players in the class.
You know, I could pick your brain all day. We do have to try to stay on clock. I appreciate you giving us some time. Let's chat again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and have a great weekend.
Dan Sorensen of Ute Zone. I get excited when we talk about, when you say Scooby Davis and Marquise Blair crossbreed, that's a set of skills I want to see on display. Of course, that's a recruit we're talking about. We've got bigger fish to fry with the season upcoming. Plenty of Utah football to talk about between now and when camp starts. And, of course, through camp, we will have elite coverage here on your home of the Utes. Big thanks to Dan Sorensen for jumping on with us. The Gov is coming up next. We'll talk some World Cup soccer. I want to remind everyone that we've got Jelly Roll and Post Malone tickets to give away. Rice Echo Stadium, July 28th. Post Malone, Jelly Roll, the Big Ass Stadium Tour 2. Tune in during Topical Trivia about 1:45 for a chance to win a pair of tickets. We'll talk some World Cup with the Gov next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. France versus Morocco coming up. That first kick will be 2 o'clock in World Cup action. We're down to the quarterfinals. France, Morocco, Spain, Belgium, Argentina, Switzerland, Norway, and who? England? Oof. Here we are. Elite coverage through the entire World Cup right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. We are your home of the Utes, though. We're coming off of a trip to Frisco, Texas, and Big 12 Media Days. We're going to have Spencer Warren, the Gov, going to join us at some point here to talk a little World Cup action. Something that kind of flew under the radar that I think is worth discussing, even though it's not particularly urgent. You got to see how this season plays out, certainly, for multiple reasons. But one of the more interesting things that did not get talked about a lot at Big 12 Media Day is the way that a potential 5-for-5 model could affect rosters in the Big 12 Conference. And ESPN wrote about it. Devin Dampier was kind of the poster child that they selected for this. Devin Dampier has 4 years of college football under his belt, including this one that we're about to start. If a 5-for-5 eligibility model is adopted, if the Save College Sports Act gets pushed through and becomes a federal legislation point that allows 5 years to play 5 in college sports, guess what that means for Utah football? Guess what that means for Devin Dampier? Not just Devin Dampier, but obviously quarterback, very prominent. Assuming that the changes take place immediately, assuming that they take effect in 2027, instead of looking at Devin Dampier's final year in the program, we could be looking at his penultimate year. He could be looking at, well, what happens after this season with Devin Dampier. And that changes a lot of things potentially, right? He has stated in the article, in the write-up, he states that, no, I'm hoping to go to the league after this year. We know what that means. We know what his expectation is. We know how Devin Dampier has plans on playing NFL football. And I think he's good enough to play NFL football. We also know that there's this sort of line of demarcation when it comes to where are you drafted or where are you projected to be drafted, to where it actually makes more sense for you to stay in college sports. So if you have 5 years to play 5 and you're getting compensated handsomely, as these young men are these days, for a lot of them, it makes sense to stay in college football. And Devin Dampier might be the best example of this because he's a guy that is crazy explosive when he's healthy, is special as a runner, is special as a passer, but doesn't have the elite measurables, doesn't have the, box-checking traits that a lot of NFL teams are looking for with starting quarterbacks. However, every college football team is looking for exactly that type of guy. And I'm using Devin Dampier because, like the article does, like ESPN does, he is a good example of it. But there's people all across the landscape that the clock changes on, and now you're getting 5 years, potentially. He was asked about it at Big 12 Media Days. And, again, he announced his intention to pursue the NFL if that's a real possibility for him. But he also mentioned that, it's nice to have that as kind of a safety valve. Making a few $1,000,000 to be a starting quarterback in college football, either at Utah or somewhere else, it's a nice little backup plan if that's your backup plan,
And one quick thing, OC. We know Devin in an interview setting because auditioned with Dev all last year. By the way, we're going to have that again this fall. Really excited about that. He's not a guy that you read this sort of thing on ESPN and you think like, oh, he said something. He was feeling like he wanted to be really bold and saying he's in support of this thing. That's not really Devin's style. Picturing it, he probably was just like real laid back And just someone asked him about it, and he was just laid back and honest, like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, fair all around. But it's funny when you see it on ESPN.com, the assumption is, oh, this guy wants to throw his hat in the ring and say something, say a hot take to national media reporter.
It's a good clarification, because it's like, I mean, Pete Thamel was talking to Devin Dampier because of what Utah has in the quarterback room, and because it's such a fascinating dynamic that he and Bird Ficklin are competing with one another, but they're also close friends, and they're also collaborating to try to give Utah a Big 12 championship, right? And now this potential wrinkle comes into that picture. Again, doesn't have to be dealt with now, but maybe we'll get to an off-season conversation about that in earnest. Spencer Warren, kind enough to join us here. He is one of our World Cup insiders, in addition to being well dialed in on RSL, MLS, and all things. The Gov, Spencer Warren. How are you, sir?
Oh, good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I, like my 300+ million other American friends, devastated that we're not winning the World Cup this year, even though I didn't actually expect that we would win the World Cup this year. But in not joking, it's been really fascinating to see the reaction, the fallout of that elimination to Belgium. And I'd like your opinion on this. For me, what struck me is that it's not that they're out in the round of 16. I think it's how they went out in the round of 16 that seems to be the most upsetting thing here. Is that a fair assessment in your mind?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the U.S. didn't really do themselves justice and built on some of the performance that they had in the group stages and whatnot. But that being said, they actually played a very good Belgian team, an aging Belgian team, but at the same time, it was their first proper test. And, yeah, they fell short, and that's going to happen. But it stings more because this tournament is only every 4 years. But, yeah, there's definitely some room for improvement, but there's also some opportunities there for self-reflection about how the U.S. prepare for some of these bigger games.
Is the seeming piling on and the criticism of Christian Pulisic, is it fair in your mind?
No, not really. It's a team sport. Sure, I don't think he reached the levels that he wanted to reach. I don't think it was through lack of effort. But at the same time, OC, I mean, this guy wasn't fully fit and was probably playing through the pain barrier. And obviously we saw that against Belgium where, he got a bit of a knock there as he was trying to strike a ball at the top of the area. I just don't think he was fully fit. And if you are relying on one man, unless your name is Lionel Messi, then I think that's tough for a team to accommodate. But there was plenty of other players that let the side down against Belgium.
A big part of the conversation and reaction to the exit for Team USA is the examination, the sort of re-adjudicating of our opinion on how soccer development is done in the United States. And if our listeners are not aware, you have not lived your entire life in the United States, as the accent might suggest. And so you probably have better knowledge than most on the comparisons, on the differences. And I actually really welcome for all sports, not just soccer, the way that, the youth soccer system is being put under the microscope because of this exit and because of the disappointment that people are feeling right now. But also we're doing it, I think, with kind of lopsided knowledge. When we say, oh, well, I mean, David Beckham he wasn't a rich kid, and he came up in English football and ended up being a global star. Why can't we just do it their way? You don't just get to flip that switch, in my opinion. So I wanted your thoughts on that part of the conversation, on the examination of youth soccer and soccer development in our country and how much that is to blame for USA once again out in the round of 16.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, being a father with a lot of kids that have played soccer at various stages and various ages, it's an expensive practice being a parent. My parents didn't have to pay anything when I was coming up in the UK. Just minimal fees, and we're talking maybe a few bucks a game to help with referee costs and stuff like that. All the coaches that I had growing up were unpaid. And that's a love of the game, whereas this is more of a business transaction. I love the fact that my children love the sport and have decided to play at various levels. But at the same time, I think there is room for improvement, not only coaching, but, what drives results? At 8 years old, do we really care what the results are, or are we looking at development? And it's a balancing act. When you have passionate parents that are paying a lot of money, they want development and they want results. Whereas I'm of the opinion, I just want development for my children. I couldn't give two hoots about the result. That's not something I worry about. I'm just looking for the best experience for children, to be free to play. And if you're looking for results at an early age, I just don't think that's helpful. It doesn't, develop a player. It might develop a mindset, but at the same time, you just need a free opportunity to hone your skills, to make mistakes, and not be judged for it. And I just feel like there's too much pressure and too much money involved at a younger level. But we are seeing some really good results in the MLS college draft. Real Salt Lake are having a great time of it right now with Sergi Solans. You have a young player in Xavier Gozo that has come through the academy at RSL, and there's a few others that are knocking at the door as well. Aiden Hezekani, Luca Moisa, and some others I'm sure I'm forgetting as well. There is a good platform. It's just before the pre-academy that we're talking about right now, where I just think there needs to be improvement. And I don't buy into OC. I don't buy into that kids have to move to Mexico or South America or Europe to make it and get the correct development. But there needs to be more money at the grassroots level, and that's going to come from the big clubs, from the U.S. Soccer Federation, to plow that money into the right areas.
Mauricio Pochettino certainly is not responsible for fixing the system that far down. But he in the group stages, everyone was falling in love with some of the differences we saw in this squad and some of the attack, and there was conversation about, all right, you got to lock this guy up long term. And then, of course, because we're prisoners of a moment, an embarrassing loss, and that conversation changes drastically. Where do you stand on Mauricio Pochettino being the right guy to lead the U.S. men's national team moving forward?
Oh, if you can keep him, I would absolutely keep him. Whether he wants to stay is a completely different question, in its entirety. Just because he is such a well-renowned coach, tries to get his team to play attractive soccer. You can tell the players respond to him, which is a massive part of the battle in any sport. If you would run through a brick wall for your coach, that goes a long way, not just outside of skill and technical ability. If you have the heart and desire to work and put your body on the line for a coach, for a cause, I think he would just be a wonderful coach long term for the U.S. I just think that there's going to be other club teams that would probably pay him a lot more money back in Europe, that are probably keeping an eye on him and his development, especially after a disappointing World Cup where they probably went out a round too early. They were looking for another round. They wanted to be in this quarterfinals kind of conversation rather than the round of 16. That would have shown some progress there, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I think he's a wonderful coach. He's a wonderful communicator, got a great style about him. And as you can see, as I said, the players just respond to him wherever he goes.
Talk a little soccer with the Gov. Spencer Warren on the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792 on FM. Conversations brought to you by Beer Bar, number one place in the Valley for you to watch all of these World Cup games, including today's 2 o'clock fixture between France and Morocco in the aforementioned quarterfinals of this 2026 World Cup. I wondered if we would get to a point watching the U.S. men's national team where we said, aha, that's exactly where you needed the Moon Man. That position right there, that situation right there, that's where you would have been better off if Diego Luna had been selected for this squad. Did we see that against Belgium?
Yeah, I think that the nice thing about Diego Luna is that he's multifunctional. He can play out wide, can play as a 10, can play as an attacking 8. You know, he's just an almost a Swiss Army knife in three positions that you can get away with. I think it was crying out for some creativity, for somebody to be in tight spaces and not panic when things weren't quite going the US's way. I would have loved for him to have that experience. And I do feel like it was a mistake not to bring him in. Now, I was saying that pre-World Cup as well, OC, and then Gio Reyna comes off the bench in that first game against Paraguay and puts an exclamation point on that 4-1 victory. So yeah, what do I know? So yeah, I would have loved for him to have that experience and really put his face on a international screen. And see if there's something more, because I do believe that MLS is not his ceiling. I think there's another step for him. I hope he stays in Real Salt Lake for his entirety of his career. But I just feel like there's something there that he can reach, and I think that an opportunity with the U.S. men's national team at the biggest tournament in the world would have been a wonderful experience and learning experience for him.
Maybe in 4 years. It seems likely that'll happen for him in 4 years. But in the meantime, he will be wearing an MLS RSL shirt for now. And like you said, I will echo the sentiment. We hope that is the case for a very long time. And as we draw closer to the end of this World Cup, it means we're closer to the return of RSL. And, we've got a big match coming up, I guess, next week with Burnley coming into town. And I wanted your thoughts on, this squad getting back rolling after the international break.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see where some of the guys are. I've not really had much to do with RSL because of the World Cup. I've just been enjoying the break from Major League Soccer. But obviously, for those that are tuned in, they would have seen that Nelson Palacios, who had been on loan in Switzerland, the Colombian midfielder, has made his exit from Real Salt Lake, and that RSL brought in a winger from Atlanta United as well. So there's been a little bit of movement. There's still question marks about Diego Luna and his availability, not injury, but are there clubs sniffing around for his services? And obviously Xavier Gozo as well. I'm delighted that nothing has happened. Hopefully that means that they'll be here for the rest of 2026. But we've got a thick schedule coming in after the 15th of this month, that friendly with Burnley. You've got 2 games at the end of July for Major League Soccer starting on the 22nd. And then you've got a full schedule. The games are going to be crammed in, particularly with Leagues Cup, with Tigres coming in, Atlante and Juarez. That's 3 games you've got to sandwich in, along with a bunch of Major League Soccer games as well. So, the game's going to come thick and fast, and you're going to start to see a full utilization of those squads, those young players that did so well at the start of the season and then were able to take a breather and a break and go back down to the Monarchs and get their first-team football there. I think there's going to be a few more minutes available and a little bit more rotating as the season wears on.
Before we let you go back to the World Cup momentarily here, you've got France versus Morocco coming up. You've got some really intense matches on the docket in this quarterfinal round. And have you seen anything that changes your expected outcome and who's potentially going to win this whole tournament?
Yeah, so, I've got this game today, France and Morocco, I think has got all the makings of whoever gets through as the potential, I would say, the favorites to be champions, the world champions. Spain, obviously, are going to be there or thereabouts. I believe that they've got the edge over Belgium. The Norway-England game is very, very tightly matched. We've seen Norway just do some wonderful things. Argentina, an aging team against Switzerland that looked so comfortable in penalties against Colombia. Argentina having to dig deep against Egypt to make sure that they get through to the quarterfinals. So it's very, very tight, but I feel like the winners of this game today between France and Morocco that kicks off in just about a half an hour's time will, I would say, 60% certain. Not really sitting on the fence there, Rosie, but 60% certain that one of those two is going to be the world champions.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Every time.
Gov, appreciate you giving us some thoughts. Let's have you on again before this thing's over, all right?
Absolutely, my man. You take care.
Spencer Warren, the Gov. World Cup Talk brought to you by Beer Bar. Drink specials, food specials, flat screens for you to take in, quarterfinal matches, a big weekend of soccer as we march closer to crowning the champions of the 2026 World Cup. Actual world champions. We do that with, the Super Bowl and with NBA Finals, Major League Baseball. And in the case of this, it's an actual world champion because it is a World Cup.
So actual world champions in addition to all the American club teams battling out for the world championship every year.
By the way,
it is funny how we do that, but I always push back on people that say, let's just stop. I'm like, no, it's tradition now. We're going to keep doing it.
Also, I feel very comfortable saying that, the Seattle Seahawks were world champions this year in American football because you could allow anyone from any country, anywhere to assemble their best squad, and they're not going to beat the Seattle Seahawks. So it's okay for them to say world champions. The same is true in baseball. The same is true in NHL hockey. Although it would be really neat to see your Stanley Cup champions, who are not often called world champions, by the way, but to watch them, the Stanley Cup champs, play like the KHL winner.
Yeah.
Like that'd be fun. We could do that.
Yeah.
And they would come out on top pretty much every time.
Do a little Champions League, soccer style Champions League for hockey. I think there might be a day when and maybe that day's coming soon, that would make a lot of sense to do something like that in basketball too. But yeah.
I also enjoy the level of coping that happens when Team USA loses in anything, right? And because we're Americans and we don't like to feel inferior in anything, we immediately are just like, yeah, but Belgium has 0 SEC championships.
Yeah. Take that, Belgium.
How many Super Bowls has Belgium won? None.
We have just a good we can make a good Belgian waffle here too, so we're fine.
Honestly, I've had Belgian waffles in Belgium. We were just in Brussels earlier this year for the PFL. That's my third visit to Belgium. They have good frites, the fries. They have good Belgian waffles. Nothing you can't get here.
Shout out to Bruges?
In Bruges, yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, everyone. All right. We are half hour away from World Cup action kicking off. They're at Foxborough? Is that right?
Foxborough, Boston Stadium.
Boston Stadium. That's right. Gillette, every single Gillette logo has been covered over with tape.
Dump button. You said that you didn't actually say the sponsor name on the air. FIFA.
Every single Gillette logo on every single seat has been covered with a small strip of tape.
You know what I think? Just riffing off of that dumb dump button joke I just made. That's what they should do instead. Just bleep out every time you say the stadium name on the air, but just bleep it out.
So people that don't know what's going on.
Bleep stadium.
People think you're just cursing about what stadium it is.
AT&T bleep Stadium in Arlington, Texas.
Honestly, that's a pretty great idea. All right. We're going to use the 1:30 segment as a daily dump because there's a lot of things I want to get to, and several of them come out of Big 12 Media Days. We have to address the jersey patch thing. I'm not going to beat it to death after today, but I have to address it today because I think what we got from Brett Yormark was just a terrible business deal for the Big 12 Conference. I'll tell you why next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Our daily dump is brought to you by Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Also, we got to fit in a PGA Tour leaderboard update from the ISCO Championship. Leaderboard updates brought to you by Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. Visit in-store for free custom fitting at Uinta Golf or shop online at worldwidegolf.com. Get to the locations all up and down the Wasatch Front. What's going on at the ISCO Championship?
Excuse me. I had that's my bad. It's the Genesis Scottish Open, not the. That must be that other championship. Must be one of the lower level tournaments that are happening at the exact same time. But the Genesis Scottish Open is the one that gonna have the bigger names in there. Well, so we'll do that.
I like to go with the obscure one, but all right, fine. We'll do the Genesis Scottish Open.
Todd Kim's your leader, tied for the lead with with Patrick Cantlay, Rory McIlroy in there as well. A couple other guys at 5 under. Brooks Koepka is in the group, 1 shot off the lead at 4 under, tied for 6th. Let's see who else. Some of the more recognizable names there. Kurt Kitayama's in there in that group as well. 1 shot off the lead, tied for 13th, just a couple shots off the lead. Matt McCarty, Wyndham Clark, your U.S. Open champion. And let's check and see if our guy Tony Finau is in the field. Doesn't appear to be in the field. So that's your PGA Tour leaderboard update. A week before the British Open, OC, final major of the year, there at the Genesis Scottish Open.
All right. Getting used to the climate over there, the big-time PGA golfers, because a little different.
And, if you're like OC and want to know what's going on in the more obscure one, you can Google it.
Yeah, then Google it, because You Into Golf does not care about that one. All right? All right. We talked about this on the air yesterday. We interviewed a couple people about it. I've read more stuff on it. The Monster Energy Big 12 football season on a Monster Energy Utah football field at Rice-Echo Stadium, part of the Monster Energy Big 12 coverage at Monster Energy Big 12 Media Days. Monster Energy got one of the greatest marketing discounts we have ever seen.
Was that like 7 times in 30 seconds you said Monster Energy?
I'm telling you.
Are you on the payroll of Big 12 Conference, OC?
Okay,
or Monster?
People probably want me to shut up about this. I will die on the hill. I'm going to write a sternly worded email to corporate at Monster Energy asking for an exemption on the requirement that the Big 12 jersey patches have a green Monster logo.
Yeah. So you were totally right about this at Big 12 Media Days. We saw, as far as the conference logos go, we see in the Pac-12 era, Utah had was able to do red. Washington was able to do, would they have purple or whatever?
Yeah.
And Big 12, we see that BYU as the blue XII, Utah as the red XII, all the other schools. We see that in the other conferences as well. Ought to be able to do that with the Monster logo, don't we think?
You know why especially? Because Monster doesn't even put a green logo on every can.
No, they've got the white one.
They got the white one. They got the clear one. They have a red one. They have a blue one. They have all these different flavors.
Yeah. Baylor can be green. There you go, Monster.
Just say that you're advertising a strawberry one or whatever. So it really, like that, the aesthetic thing bothers me, genuinely. I'm not alone in this. I stumbled onto the Kansas State message boards and the TCU message boards, and they're going to have to put bright green on purple, and that's going to look ugly. And Kansas is mad about it because they're going to put bright green on blue. By the way, Kansas is the reason I want to have this conversation, because yesterday they announced that Ripple, the XRP, the cryptocurrency, is sponsoring a jersey patch on Jayhawks football jerseys. And guess what? They're different colors for the home and the away jerseys so that it matches the color scheme a little bit better. And guess what the reported dollar figure is on those? Kansas went out and got that on their own, and they're allowed to. Utah is allowed to. The good thing about the Monster Energy deal is it doesn't preclude you from getting your own jersey sponsor. Did you hear what the reported number is on the Ripple cryptocurrency?
I did not. Was it, I'm going to guess, what, 3 million?
Between 5 and 6 million per year is what's being reported.
Wow.
Now, when it's a vague number like that,
yeah,
between 5 and 6 million, maybe it's not either of those numbers. But UNLV has a jersey patch. You know how much UNLV got for their jersey patch? $2.2 million.
Washington State, I believe, was in that same neighborhood for their jersey patch.
Washington State got $2 million.
Yeah.
Do you know how dumb that is? That the entire conference is being sold for $1.2 million per school? Like, Brett Yormark, I applaud the, hey, let's go out and let's get a conference-wide sponsor. But you have devalued your institutions to an unacceptable level.
Is there any chance, just just to throw it out there, give just a teensy bit of benefit of the doubt. Is there any chance that Brett Yormark and his people that oversaw this deal went to Monster and said, we want $7 million a year, and Monster was like, you're not the Big Ten. Let's calm down here. Is there any chance there could have been that dynamic going on?
I'm sure that there's some of that dynamic going on. And fine, if you can't get $7 million per school, but less than 2,
yeah.
If
when individual schools,
a reconstituted Pac-12 school, if a school that everyone already decided to leave out of the party is getting more, then you are as a conference. By the way, as far as I know, reading what I read about UNLV and about Washington State, it's for the jersey. It's not for the field, and it's not for the basketball floor.
So it's not. They're not going to have the Monster logo on the field.
They are no.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying Ripple, the cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Okay. It's just the jersey patch.
As far as we know, it's just the jersey patch for that money.
Wow.
Not also the field, and not also we're expected to be calling the season the Big 12 Monster Energy football season. Knock it off.
Yeah, and the basketball is going to be that way.
Do you realize that every official email we get from the conference this year, James, here's the players of the week in the conference. Here's what's happening for the championship game. Guess what that championship game is going to be called, James? The Monster Energy Big 12 Championship Game.
Presented by WWE.
It's for $20 million total. That's a huge amount of money if it's your personal salary. When you're dividing it up among 16 schools, you, Brett Yormark, have devalued your own conference. Because now, okay, this is where Crimson Brand Partners, the expertise that you bring in from the Otro Capital side of things, right? They keep telling us this. It's not just a capital infusion, it's expertise. Your first opportunity to get a big victory and to convince fans that you are worth it, that this deal is worth it, happens right here with the jersey sponsors. You know why? Because you have to go out and you have to sell a jersey sponsor to go opposite, I assume, the Monster Energy Big 12 logo, and you have to convince whatever that company is that it's worth $5 million, even though Monster Energy got that and more for $1 million. Okay? Crimson Brand Partners, marketing experts, partners there. You want to convince every Utah football fan you have nothing to fear with this private equity deal? Go out and get a big fat number on the Maverick gas stations, the Pixar jersey patch, on the Crumble. Go to the Crumble Cookie guy. I don't care where you get it. I don't know what it's going to be. Pie Pizzeria right there on the shoulder. Get a bunch of money for it, and then all of us will be like, oh, these guys know what they're doing.
How about Culligan script on the jersey there?
Culligan? It's a great one. Everyone loves clean, delicious, filtered water, especially Utes. Like,
you know what?
You know how hard it makes.
Here's James, what it'll be: America First Credit Union for they'll get their name on another sports property.
Like Brett Yormark is effectively telling his member institutions, "Hey, by all means, I want you to go out and get your own sponsorship, but just so you know, we are setting the price over here at just over $1 million for this branding." And now if I am fill-in-the-blank company that wants to get in bed with Utah football, with BYU football for that matter, I'm going, well, Monster Energy got a logo on your field and on your patch for $1 million. You want how much out of me for the same thing? I'll give you $2 million because I'm a BYU alum and I love you. I'll give you 2.5 because, man, I have all these great memories of sitting at Rice Eccles Stadium with my dad, and I own this company now. Like, you have devalued the actual I mean, hey, you can buy a billboard on the side of our building right here in front of us, James. Right here outside of our studio. You can buy a billboard on the side of our building, okay? I'm going to sell it to you for $1 million, and then I'm going to go try to sell it to somebody else for $6 million. What are you doing, Brett Yormark? It's so frustrating because it's a great idea and this innovation and this, like, let's take the first step. Let's do this. You're just you're putting everything up for sale. You know how you're the laughing stock of college football instead of being like innovative partnership, adding value to the conference. That's what he thought the reaction was going to be. He stood up on that damn podium and he said, the Monster Energy Big 12 football media days, getting ready for the Monster Energy Big 12 football season. And everyone's just like, whoa, he really, okay, I hope this is a lot of money. And it just isn't. You know what all the branding experts said the value for a Power 4 when UNLV made their announcement? They said, oh, UNLV got $2+ million for the jersey patch. Based on where UNLV is at and comparing them to where, like, Ohio State is at, we think that these jersey patches could be worth as much as $12 million per year per school at the top of the P4 level. And Brett Yormark said, it's actually worth $1.25 million.
Oh, you said 12? You did. There wasn't a decimal point there. 1.2 is what I thought I heard.
And by the way, all of our, like, the athletic directors, the coaches, the players have to take the company line.
Yeah.
And have to sit there and say, I think it's great. It's a value add. Yeah, okay.
Technically, yes.
That's not a false statement.
Yeah.
But Idaho could get $1 million a year for their jersey patch. Crimson Brand Partners, I wish you luck because the Big 12 undermined your ability to ask top dollar. But if you've got the expertise that we think you might have, go out and get some money for that thing.
Well, and there's one thing, I'll just say this. There's one thing that Utah and BYU have an advantage of over most of the rest of the conference is that they play in an area with other with major league pro sports teams. Like the NBA has had jersey patches for, what is this, the 7th, 8th, 9th season that we've had that the NBA has had a jersey patch. They can they can make a phone call to Smith Entertainment Group and be like, okay, what do you ask for that? How does an NBA team, how much does an NBA team value the jersey patch? And they can, and how do you, if you, whatever you're willing to tell us about how you go about making that sales pitch, any way you can help us, hopefully that helps them make up for the disadvantage that Brett Yormark and the Big 12 Conference has given them here with severely undervaluing their conference.
Okay. I am clicking on a Monster Energy contact form, and I'm going to send my sternly worded email to Monster Energy demanding that a special exemption be given to the University of Utah to where their jersey patches can have a red, a black, or a white Monster M. It's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think Monster Energy and all their delightful promo models are going to agree with me. All right?
And on the field at Rice Eccles Stadium and Court, Huntsman Center, other places, yeah. Green, that it would feel much better if at least it wasn't green clashing with almost every school in the conference, not named Baylor, basically.
And even Baylor is like,
I mean, it's a different color green, yeah.
That's the whole point of the green, is it's like a green that stands out.
Yeah, it's like a lime.
It's like a neon lime
screaming
green.
At you green.
It's like horror movie green.
The ooze from here we go, obscure movie reference. The ooze from Ninja Turtles 2.
Ninja Turtle ooze green does not look good on BYU's royal blue uniforms and Utah's crimson jerseys. Cincinnati is mostly like black on their jerseys, right?
Yeah, they're red and black, yeah.
It's primary jersey is black and then, of course, white. That's fine. A little bit less. It just drives me crazy.
I love that in the interview with Mark Harlan, which you can get on ESPN700sports.com.
Boom.
I love that you said, that's gross or whatever.
That's horrific.
That's horrific. After he made the very logical statement of like, hey, if we were selling Utah's logo and someone said we love it, we love the U, we love the interlocking U, drum and feather, whatever, but can we make it green instead of red? And he'd be like, absolutely not. I mean, it's a very logical statement by Mark Harlan there. That's horrific.
Okay.
I love that.
This is why Monster Energy is going to listen to me, because you remember, James, you don't remember. If you're my age, you remember a time when, the New York Yankees, because of music videos with like Biggie and Mace and the now disgraced P. Diddy, it was very popular for people to wear New York Yankees hats that were every color except for navy.
I've seen the red around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had them in like late 90s. You could get it in red, pink, green, yellow, orange. It was a popular thing, right? The Yankees, the New York Yankees, were willing to be like, it doesn't have to be blue as long as we can sell it. Monster Energy, you should feel the same way. It doesn't have to be green as long as you can sell it. Ugh. Thanks a lot, Brett Yormark. Get him on the show, James. Give him a call right now.
Yeah, the other thing that we need to get Brett Yormark on for, apparently, is to ask him about Brendan Sorsby, because apparently his only availability before the season is not the time to talk about Brendan Sorsby, which is like grievance against that, Brett Yormark.
Also, he left media days early. Do you want to know why he left media days early? I think because he thought it was going to be this great triumph and everyone's going to clap and welcome the announcement that he had sold the sponsorship rights to the conference. And then immediately after he announced it, everyone in the whole world started laughing at him and laughing at his conference. And so he left media days. He ran because he didn't want to answer questions. Hey, shouldn't you have gotten more money? Shouldn't you have gotten like a decent amount of money here?
And he probably knew he was going to get more people and on Radio Row or whatever if he stuck around asking. So I know you said this isn't the time, but seriously, tell us about Brendan Sorsby and when is the time? And he's just like, you know what? Never mind.
Make it a summer of live at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Get 4 lawn tickets for $99 and see Caliucci's August 5th, Black Crows and Whiskey Myers on August 13th. Train with Bare Naked Ladies on August 19th. Visit livenation.com, Summer of Live, for tickets. Speaking of tickets, we'll give away some Jelly Roll and Post Malone, the Big Ass Stadium Tour tickets. We'll give those away next with a trivia question. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. 877-353-0700. 877-353-0700 for Post Malone and Jelly Roll Big Ass Stadium Tour 2 tickets at Rice Eccles, July 28th. If you could answer this trivia question, Gordy Chiesa brought his basketball knowledge into studio earlier, and we were talking about the all-NBA teams and all-defensive teams and the guys that have made been decorated multiple times as both all-NBA and all-defensive team. And there was one guy who stood alone, having been 15 times all-NBA and 15 times all-defensive team as well. Who was that player? 877-353-0700 for a pair of tickets to Post Malone and Jelly Roll at Rice Eccles Stadium on July 28th. Big thanks to Uinta Golf for sponsoring our PGA Tour leaderboard updates. In-store, it's free custom club fitting at Uinta Golf. You can also go online at worldwidegolf.com. Great summer deals happening right now. Speaking of golf, Spence Checketts is up at Soldier Hollow today. Drive up to Heber, get off early, drive up to Heber, and take a crack at things at the Soldier Hollow Golf Course. Make yourself a tee time as you go up there and you watch the Utah State men's amateur tournament. Spence Checketts will be there broadcasting from 2 to 6. Stop by, tell him that we said hello. Give him a, throw up the U. Ask him about his Monster Energy experience down at Monster Energy Big 12 Media Days.
He had an amazing moment there too when you were talking with Shahan, I believe, and he said, "Hold on, Shahan," took a sip of his Monster Energy and said, "Before I ask you about this sponsorship." So that great job by both of you.
He also, Spence also almost got Mark Harlan to make a comment about analytics. Kyle Whittingham blaming the BYU loss on analytics. That would have been that would have been like you could retire from radio after getting that.
Absolutely. So Dan Patrick recently, or maybe it wasn't all that recent, but he has talked about on his show and other places about his goal as an interviewer is to get the subject, the interviewee, the guest to feel so comfortable that they don't even know that they're revealing something huge or saying something that's going to make a lot of waves because they're just having a conversation, right? And you almost did that with Mark Harlan, as Spence Checketts almost did. And it would have been chef's kiss because the guy's not the coach anymore. So it doesn't you don't really have to worry about that guy being so mad at you. But Mark didn't fall for it. He no commented you guys, which was an incredible moment. By the way, we did get an answer. Tim Duncan, he's the guy. 15 all NBA teams, 15 all defensive teams. The most remarkable thing about that OC is that he never won Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, that's pretty wild, actually. So you're just consistent all the time. Morocco, France, kicking off right now. We are 9 seconds into it. Now 10, 11. Enjoy that coverage. Head over to Beer Bar. Tell them that OC sent you there. And we'll talk to you soon here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.